Beneath the ancient skies of China, where mist curls over forgotten mountains and rivers whisper through time, lies a world of secrets that defy explanation. For thousands of years, this land has been the cradle of invention, wisdom, and mystery. But behind the grandeur of its dynasties and the brilliance of its scholars, there are tales, strange, unsettling, and shrouded in silence. From the unexplained precision of the Sanxingdui artifacts, crafted with techniques far beyond their era, to the eerie tombs that pulse with magnetic energy deep beneath the earth, China holds enigmas that science can't fully unravel. Who built these impossible structures? What knowledge was lost when entire cities vanished without a trace? And why do ancient texts speak of celestial visitors descending from the heavens, teaching mankind the secrets of metal and fire? These are not legends whispered to children. They are mysteries carved into the very bones of history. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into the ancient heart of China, where every stone, every silence, holds a question the world has yet to answer. In the heart of China's Sichuan province, where the Minjiang River winds through mist-shrouded valleys and emerald hills, lies a site that has puzzled archaeologists for nearly a century. Here, beneath layers of earth once thought ordinary, a forgotten world was uncovered, a civilization so advanced, so artistically distinct, that it seemed to belong not just to another culture, but to another world entirely. This is Sanxingdui. Discovered by accident in the late 1920s and later excavated in the 1980s, the Sanxingdui site revealed artifacts unlike anything found elsewhere in ancient China. Giant bronze masks with exaggerated eyes, intricate gold scepters, jade blades, and towering statues, each crafted with astonishing precision. The expressions on these masks are haunting. Elongated faces, protruding pupils, and serene, otherworldly gazes that seem to pierce through time itself. These were not simple ornaments or ritual pieces. They were symbols, messages perhaps, from a civilization that left no written record, no clear identity, and no trace of its end. The Sanxingdui culture is believed to have flourished around 1200 BC, roughly contemporaneous with the late Shang Dynasty to the east. Yet, the artifacts unearthed here share almost nothing with the artistic or cultural norms of Shang China. While the Shang people crafted oracle bones and bronze vessels inscribed with early Chinese characters, the Sanxingdui artisans built monumental sculptures and surreal human figures with almost cosmic features. Their bronze work was unparalleled, techniques so sophisticated that modern metallurgists still study their methods with awe. But who were they? And how did such an advanced and unique culture emerge, thrive, and then disappear, leaving no written word, no continuity in later Chinese civilization? Archaeologists have long debated these questions. Some suggest that Sanxingdui was part of the ancient Shu kingdom, mentioned in early Chinese texts, an isolated yet powerful state that existed in the Sichuan basin. Others believe it was a regional offshoot of the broader Chinese Bronze Age, developing its own artistic language through trade and isolation. These explanations fit within the framework of history, offering comfort in their familiarity. Yet the artifacts themselves resist easy classification. The bronze masks, many over a meter wide, depict faces that do not resemble any known ethnic group of ancient China. The massive bronze tree unearthed at the site, adorned with dragons, birds, and human figures, seems less a work of human craftsmanship and more a vision, a representation of the axis between heaven and earth, connecting gods to mortals. Some researchers have noted curious similarities between Sanxingdui symbols and motifs found in distant lands. The large almond-shaped eyes seen in Mesopotamian art, or the intricate gold work reminiscent of ancient Central Asia. could these be signs of ancient contact, or merely coincidence shaped by human imagination? Then there are the more speculative theories. Some propose that the Sanxingdui people possessed knowledge of astronomy or geometry beyond what we would expect from the Bronze Age. Others whisper of celestial visitors, of sky beings immortalized in bronze and gold by those who witnessed their descent. The idea is, of course, unprovable. And yet, when one stands before those massive masks, their hollow eyes reflecting light like glass, it is difficult not to feel an uncanny presence, as if the artists themselves were trying to capture something they could not fully comprehend. What happened to the Sanxingdui Civilization remains one of the great archaeological enigmas of our time. Around 1000 BC, the site was suddenly abandoned. The people vanished, their city fell silent, and their remarkable artistry disappeared from history. Some theories suggest that a massive earthquake altered the course of the Minjiang River, cutting off their water supply and forcing migration. Others believe the people moved north to form the Jinsha culture, discovered near modern Chengdu, perhaps a continuation, perhaps a new beginning. Yet, even if the descendants of Sanxingdui survived elsewhere, their mystery endured. No written chronicles, no legends, no folklore survived to explain who they were or why their art spoke a language so unlike any other. What compelled them to create these enormous alien-looking faces? Were they gods, ancestors, or something beyond human understanding? Today, as researchers use cutting-edge technology, 3D scanning, isotope analysis, and carbon dating, to peer deeper into the relics, the mystery only deepens. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle but rarely provides clarity. It is as if Sanxingdui itself guards its own secret, one buried not just in soil, but in silence. And so the bronze eyes of Sanxingdui continue to stare across millennia, unblinking, their meaning lost to time. Were they watching the heavens or us? As we leave behind the enigmatic bronzes of Sanxingdui, our journey through ancient China's mysteries leads us deeper into the realm of the dead, into tombs where silence has endured for more than 2,000 years. Here, beneath the soil of Hebei and Jiangsu provinces, something extraordinary was discovered. Not weapons, not gold, but bodies encased in thousands of small, glimmering pieces of jade, stitched together like a second skin. They are known as jade burial suits, perhaps the most haunting and beautiful funerary artifacts ever unearthed in Chinese archaeology. At first glance, they shimmer faintly under museum lights, their polished surfaces reflecting a pale green glow. But step closer, and the sight becomes almost surreal. Each suit composed of over 2,000 individual plaques of jade, painstakingly cut, shaped and bound together with gold, silver, or silk thread. The effect is mesmerizing, a human form preserved in stone, as if the person inside sought not just to be remembered, but to transcend the boundaries of life itself. The first of these suits was discovered in 1968, within the tomb of Prince Liu Sheng of the Western Han Dynasty, dating back to around 113 BC. Archaeologists could hardly believe what they found. The prince's entire body was encased in jade, from head to toe, his features hidden beneath a seamless mosaic of green. Nearby, the tomb of his consort, Dulan, revealed another suit, nearly identical in design. Since then, fewer than 24 have been unearthed across China, each one slightly different, each revealing subtle variations in craftsmanship and material. Jade has always held a sacred place in Chinese civilization. For millennia, it was seen not merely as a gemstone, but as a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Confucius once described jade as embodying the highest virtues: benevolence, wisdom, integrity. Ancient texts spoke of its power to ward off evil spirits, to purify the soul, even to preserve the body after death. But did the ancient Chinese truly believe that jade could grant immortality? That question lies at the heart of the mystery. In the Han Dynasty, rulers and nobles pursued eternal life with remarkable fervor. Alchemists sought the elixir of immortality, blending mercury, gold, and rare minerals. Temples were built to honor celestial beings, and in their tombs, the elite surrounded themselves with jade. Burial masks, discs, figurines, and now entire suits, believing that the stone's purity would shield their spirits from decay and corruption. From a scientific standpoint, jade is a hard, nearly indestructible mineral. Encasing a body within thousands of fitted jade pieces might have seemed like the ultimate safeguard against death. Yet, when the tombs were opened, no traces of preserved flesh remained. The jade suits had protected only emptiness, beautiful shells guarding silence. Still, some scholars wonder whether these suits served a purpose beyond ritual or superstition. Why invest such unimaginable effort, years of labor, immense wealth, the skills of master artisans, for something buried forever underground? Was this purely a display of royal power, or an experiment in transcending mortality itself? A few fringe theories go even further. Some suggest that the jade suits acted as a kind of spiritual technology, designed not just to preserve the body, but to capture and contain the soul. Others point to the precise geometric layout of the jade pieces, arranged in patterns that some researchers claim resemble energy grids or ancient schematics of the human body's meridians. Could the ancients have believed that jade conducted or harmonized vital energy, the qi, guiding the spirit safely into the afterlife? And then there are the anomalies. In several tombs, the jade suits were discovered without any accompanying remains, as though the bodies had vanished completely. Some interpret this as natural decomposition. Others, more imaginatively, see in it a metaphor, or perhaps evidence, of something the ancients achieved that we do not yet understand. Modern archaeologists, cautious but fascinated, continue to study these relics with advanced tools. Spectroscopic analysis reveals the sources of jade, showing that some came from regions hundreds of miles away, implying vast trade networks and centralized control. New imaging techniques uncover hidden inscriptions, tiny, almost imperceptible marks that may have held ritual significance. Yet, despite the progress, the true intention behind the jade burial suits remains elusive. Were they symbols of status, spiritual armor, or silent vessels crafted in hope of resurrection? Even now, as we stand before the glinting fragments displayed in glass cases, it's difficult not to feel a sense of awe and unease. The cold sheen of the stone seems to hold more than craftsmanship. It holds a question whispered across centuries by those who once believed they could conquer death itself. And perhaps, somewhere beneath China's vast landscape, sealed beneath layers of untouched earth, more of these suits still lie waiting, guarding their secrets in eternal jade-bound sleep. From the cold gleam of jade to the stillness of imperial earth, our journey now leads us to one of China's most haunting and least understood resting places, the shadowed realm surrounding the tomb of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Here, beneath the ancient soil of Xi'an, lies not only the ruler who unified China, but an empire of the dead, built to mirror the living world above. For centuries, it has remained sealed, undisturbed, and guarded by secrets that refuse to fade. Most know of the Terracotta army, thousands of life-sized soldiers, each with a unique face, standing in silent formation. But beyond those famous ranks lies another darker mystery: the lost tombs of Qin Shi Huang's concubines, a place where history, devotion, and tragedy intertwine beneath layers of forgotten earth. Archaeologists first uncovered traces of this burial site near the emperor's vast necropolis, a cluster of tombs arranged in deliberate symmetry. positioned just north of the main mausoleum. Within these smaller chambers, they found the remains of women, some adorned with fine ornaments, others laid bare, their bones arranged in strange and deliberate patterns. Many appeared to have died at the same time. But why? According to historical texts, when Qin Shi Huang died in 210 BC, his burial was no ordinary funeral. It was a cosmic event meant to preserve his rule in the afterlife. Chroniclers from the Han Dynasty wrote of rivers of mercury flowing through the tomb, a miniature palace built underground, and a ceiling painted with stars to reflect the heavens. The emperor, obsessed with immortality, wanted to rule forever, even in death. Yet the same records tell of something far more unsettling. It is said that after his death, many of his concubines, perhaps hundreds, were sealed alive within his tomb complex, condemned to die so that their spirits might accompany him into eternity. Some accounts describe their throats being cut before burial. Others suggest they were entombed while still breathing. Whether these accounts are true or embellished, the archaeological evidence is disturbingly suggestive. Multiple skeletons arranged in mass graves, showing signs of simultaneous death. Who ordered such a fate? Was it the will of the emperor himself, or a ritual carried out by his successors to prevent the concubines from bearing children who might challenge the royal bloodline? Some historians argue it was an act of political control, a way to erase potential heirs. Others see it as a reflection of ancient beliefs about loyalty beyond the grave. But for many, it remains an act of devotion twisted by fear, an eternal service demanded by an emperor who sought to master both life and death. And yet, the mystery deepens. While parts of the surrounding necropolis have been excavated, the central chamber, where Qin Shi Huang himself is believed to rest, has never been opened. Chinese authorities have forbidden excavation, citing concerns over preservation. Instruments used to scan the site have detected unusually high levels of mercury in the soil, lending eerie support to the ancient texts that spoke of rivers of quicksilver flowing through the tomb. But what else lies within remains unknown. Some scholars speculate that the concubines' tombs were not merely places of burial, but symbolic gateways, rites of transformation connecting the mortal realm with the emperor's eternal kingdom. The arrangement of the graves appears deliberate, almost astronomical, as if designed to mirror constellations above. Could these women have been placed according to celestial patterns, part of a ritual meant to align the emperor's spirit with the cosmos itself? More speculative theories go further still. Some suggest that the concubines' remains were not victims, but participants in a ritual they believed would grant them transcendence, a union with the divine emperor that went beyond death. Others, drawing from ancient Taoist texts, speak of alchemical sacrifices, acts meant to bind human energy to immortal forces. No definitive evidence has emerged, only bones, scattered ornaments, and the faint traces of silk and gold, the fragile remains of lives once bound to the will of a single man. Their names are lost, their faces forgotten, yet the silence they left behind seems to echo louder than any monument. Standing above these tombs today, amid the quiet fields outside Xi'an, it's easy to forget what lies below. But for those who pause to imagine, the air seems heavy, charged with the memory of devotion, fear, and unfulfilled longing. Were these women prisoners of ritual, or guardians of an emperor's eternal dream? Perhaps the answer still waits in the darkness beneath the earth, sealed within chambers untouched for over 2,000 years. The Terracotta army watches over them, unblinking, and deep below, where mercury rivers may still flow, the emperor sleeps, surrounded by silence and by those who followed him into eternity. As we leave the shadowed tombs of Qin Shi Huang's concubines, our journey takes us further back in time, far beyond the age of emperors, beyond even the written word, into a realm where myth and history blur into one. Here, in the mists of antiquity, lies the story of China's first and most elusive dynasty, the Xia. The landscapes that once cradled this lost civilization are serene now, rolling plains, river valleys, and the soft amber flow of the Yellow River winding endlessly toward the sea. But beneath this calm exterior rests the memory of an age that may have been both glorious and cataclysmic. It is said that more than 4,000 years ago, long before the Shang and Zhou dynasties rose to power, the Xia people built the first kingdom of China. Yet their existence remains one of the greatest enigmas in archaeology, a civilization described in ancient texts but still whispering from the edge of legend. According to traditional records, the Xia dynasty began with the reign of Yu the Great, a man celebrated not for conquest, but for control over the chaos of water. The story tells of devastating floods that swept across the land, threatening to drown early settlements. Yu, through years of tireless effort, devised channels and dikes to tame the rivers and restore order to the world. His success was seen as divine. He became emperor, and his descendants, the rulers of a new age. Thus began the Xia dynasty, a line said to last nearly 5 centuries, from around 2070 to 1600 BC. But here lies the first mystery. If the Xia truly existed, why have we found so little trace of them? For centuries, scholars dismissed the Xia as myth, a symbolic bridge between prehistoric tribes and the later verifiable Shang dynasty. The earliest written accounts of the Xia appear not in contemporary documents, but in much later chronicles, compiled nearly 1,000 years after their supposed fall. These texts, like the records of the grand historian, blend moral philosophy with mythic storytelling, describing rulers of virtue and kings corrupted by excess. Could the Xia have been a moral allegory, an idealized past invented to teach lessons about governance and decay? Yet archaeology, in recent decades, has complicated the question. Excavations at Erlitou in Henan province have revealed the remains of an advanced Bronze Age culture that flourished between 1900 and 1500 BC, exactly the period associated with the Xia. Palaces with rammed earth foundations, bronze tools, ceremonial vessels, and jade ornaments all suggest a complex society, organized, wealthy, and powerful. Could Erlitou be the long-lost capital of the Xia? Many believe so. Still, the evidence remains circumstantial. No inscriptions mention the name Xia. No records tie the artifacts directly to Yu the Great or his descendants. The connection depends on timelines and interpretations, fragile bridges between science and tradition. And then there is the troubling question of their end. Ancient legends speak of the last Xia king, Jia, a tyrant whose cruelty brought ruin upon his people. He is said to have built extravagant palaces, drowned in indulgence, and ignored the suffering of his subjects. Finally, the mandate of heaven was withdrawn, and the Xia were overthrown by a rebel leader named Tang, who founded the Shang dynasty. But was this truly history, or the moral retelling of a natural disaster, a shift in power explained through divine judgment? Some researchers suggest that the Xia may have fallen not to rebellion, but to nature itself. Geological studies hint at massive flooding events around 1900 to 1600 BC, floods so great they could have wiped out entire settlements along the Yellow River. Others propose that volcanic eruptions or sudden climate changes caused famine and migration, erasing the traces of an early civilization that lacked the means to recover. More speculative theories reach even further. Some writers have drawn parallels between the Xia and other ancient lost civilizations around the world, wondering whether global cataclysms might have connected their fates. Others point to the advanced metallurgy and urban planning of Erlitou as evidence of knowledge beyond its time, knowledge that seemed to appear suddenly, as if inherited from a forgotten source. What if the Xia were not the beginning but a remnant, descendants of an even older, vanished culture now lost to memory? Whatever the truth, the Xia remain suspended between myth and discovery. Each new excavation in central China brings hope and frustration. The soil yields fragments of pottery, tools, and ritual objects, yet the identity of the people who made them continues to evade definition. They are like shadows cast backward through time, real enough to touch the imagination, yet always just beyond certainty. Standing amid the ancient riverbeds of Henan, it's easy to feel that time itself is holding its breath. Were these plains once the heart of China's first kingdom? Did Yu the Great truly walk here, shaping the rivers with his hands? Or is he merely the echo of countless generations who struggled against the floods? The answers lie buried still beneath layers of history and legend, and until they are uncovered, the Xia Dynasty will remain what it has always been, a ghost at the dawn of Chinese civilization, half remembered, half believed, and never fully gone. As we move from the mythic twilight of the Xia Dynasty into the more recent past, the landscape of mystery shifts, from forgotten kingdoms to an enigma rooted in the origins of humanity itself. Just outside modern-day Beijing, in the limestone hills of Zhoukoudian, lies a cave system that once promised to rewrite the story of human evolution. It was here, nearly a century ago, that archaeologists made one of the most significant and most haunting discoveries in the history of science. They called him Peking Man. The site, quiet now and echoing with the sounds of dripping water, once held fossils that were more than 500,000 years old, fragments of skulls, jaws, and teeth belonging to an early form of Homo erectus. To those who uncovered them in the 1920s and 1930s, these ancient bones were proof that early humans had lived in East Asia long before recorded history. But just as these fossils began to reveal the secrets of our distant past, they vanished, without a trace. The story begins in 1921, when Swedish geologist Johan Gunnar Andersson first explored Zhoukoudian's Dragon Bone Hill. Local villagers had long collected dragon bones for traditional medicine, unaware they were fragments of prehistoric creatures. Excavations soon followed, led by Chinese and international scientists. By 1929, the first complete skull cap of Peking Man was unearthed by Chinese paleontologist Pei Wenzhong. It was an astonishing find, thick-boned, heavy, and unmistakably ancient. The cave yielded more than 200 fossils from at least 40 individuals, along with stone tools and traces of fire. Humanity, it seemed, had deep roots in the heart of China. But then came war. In 1941, as World War II spread across Asia, Japanese forces advanced toward Beijing. Fearing that the priceless fossils would be destroyed or stolen, scientists decided to move them to safety. The bones were carefully packed into wooden crates and entrusted to the U.S. Marines stationed in China, who were to transport them to the American Museum of Natural History in New York. But somewhere along that journey, between the Peking Union Medical College and the port city of Qinhuangdao, the trail went cold. The crates never arrived. The bones of Peking Man had disappeared. What happened next reads like a mystery novel written in fragments and shadows. Some say the fossils were lost when the convoy was ambushed on its way to the coast. Others claim the crates were loaded onto a ship, the SS President Harrison, which was captured or sunk before leaving port. Still others believe the bones were hidden deliberately, buried to protect them from war, only for their exact location to be forgotten with time. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged. In the years following the war, rumors surfaced that the fossils had been smuggled out of China and sold on the black market. Some alleged they were secretly taken to Japan or even to the United States, locked away in a private collection. Others speculated that they were destroyed entirely, burned or crushed under military occupation, but not one piece of verified evidence has ever been found. What makes this disappearance so haunting is that replicas of the fossils exist. Before their loss, skilled scientists created casts of the skulls and bones, preserving their shapes in meticulous detail. The originals, however, the real, irreplaceable bones of humanity's ancestors, remain missing, and with them, perhaps, clues that could have reshaped our understanding of early human migration and evolution. Some fringe theorists suggest darker possibilities. They argue that Peking man might have challenged prevailing narratives of human origin at the time, proof that advanced hominins lived in East Asia independently of Africa. Could the fossils have been suppressed or destroyed to maintain established theories? It is a claim without proof, yet one that persists in the absence of answers. Others look not to conspiracy, but to fate. Perhaps the fossils still lie buried somewhere near the port, sealed beneath modern concrete or hidden in a forgotten cave. Perhaps they were swept away by time, their fragments mingling once again with the earth from which they came. Despite repeated searches by archaeologists, historians, and even treasure hunters, the bones have never been found. What remains are the photographs, the replicas, and the legend of what once was. Standing today at Zhoukoudian, one can still feel the weight of that loss. The cave walls, dark and damp, seem to whisper with unanswered questions. Who was Peking man? What might those vanished bones have told us about our shared beginnings? And will they ever resurface to remind us of a time when the world itself was still awakening to human form? Perhaps they are still out there, somewhere between history and myth, waiting, as mysteries often do, to be found again. From the lost bones of Peking man to the great tombs of emperors, China's ancient past seems to guard its secrets with deliberate care. But among the most curious of these enigmas lies a monument that was never finished, a tomb that was meant to echo the grandeur of Qin Shi Huang's eternal resting place, yet instead stands as a haunting reminder of power interrupted. It is known as the unfinished tomb of his successor, Emperor Qin Ershi, the second emperor of the Qin dynasty and the last of his line. On the quiet plains near modern-day Xi'an, archaeologists have found traces of this forsaken project. Vast earthworks half buried beneath centuries of dust, foundations that suggest ambition on an imperial scale, and fragments of tiles, stone, and rammed earth that once marked the beginnings of another eternal palace beneath the ground. Yet unlike his father's tomb, guarded by legions of terracotta soldiers, Qin Ershi's mausoleum was never completed. It remains, even today, little more than a ghost of intention. To understand this unfinished tomb, one must first understand the emperor who ordered it. Qin Ershi ascended the throne in 210 BC after the death of his father, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. But his rule began not with triumph, but with deceit. Historical records describe how the powerful eunuch Zhao Gao and the prime minister Li Si conspired to conceal the first emperor's death, forging documents to install the young prince, Hu Hai, as emperor. Once in power, Qin Ershi became a puppet, manipulated by those who sought to control the vast Qin Empire from behind the throne. As rebellion spread across the land, the dynasty that had unified China began to crumble within just a few short years. Qin Ershi ordered executions, imposed heavier taxes, and sought to maintain the illusion of imperial stability. But the foundations of the empire were already eroding. Amid this chaos, work began on his own mausoleum, an undertaking meant to mirror his father's eternal city beneath the earth. But before it could be completed, the emperor was dead. Some say he took his own life in despair. Others claim he was coerced into suicide by Zhao Gao, the very man who had put him on the throne. Whatever the truth, the work on his tomb ceased abruptly. Laborers were recalled or killed, materials left unused, and the half-built chambers sealed by time. For more than 2,000 years, the site remained largely forgotten, mentioned only in ancient chronicles that spoke of its incomplete grandeur. When archaeologists rediscovered it, they found signs of sudden abandonment. Unfinished corridors, collapsed passageways, and layers of soil suggesting that construction halted without ceremony or closure. What happened here? Some scholars argue that the tomb's abandonment was purely political, a reflection of the Qin dynasty's rapid fall. Without imperial stability, there was neither the labor nor the resources to complete it. Others suggest something stranger, that the tomb's failure mirrored the curse of Qin Shi Huang himself. According to legend, the first emperor's quest for immortality angered the heavens, and his descendants were doomed to lose everything he had built. Could this unfinished tomb be a silent echo of that curse, a monument to the empire's brief, burning brilliance? More speculative theories suggest the tomb may not be as unfinished as it seems. Some researchers have proposed that deeper chambers could still lie hidden beneath the visible remains, undetected by modern surveys. Others believe that Qin Shi, aware of his own fragile reign, may have ordered a decoy tomb built to protect his true resting place elsewhere. The idea, while unproven, is not without precedent. Other dynasties employed false tombs to confuse looters and rivals alike. And then there is the question of disappearance. Despite centuries of searching, no confirmed remains of Qin Shi have ever been found. If this site was indeed meant to be his final resting place, where did his body go? Was it buried hastily in a secret chamber to avoid desecration by the rebels who destroyed his dynasty? Or was it lost entirely in the chaos that followed his death? What survives today is a landscape of fragments, an interrupted dream in clay and stone. The surrounding fields, once alive with the sounds of construction, are silent now, disturbed only by the wind that brushes across the low mounds. Archaeologists continue to study the site, using ground-penetrating radar and remote sensing to map what lies beneath, but the answers remain elusive. The earth holds its silence tightly, as if unwilling to give up the final chapter of the Qin story. Standing on this quiet ground, one can almost sense the weight of what might have been, the ambition of an emperor who sought immortality like his father, and the futility of a dynasty built too quickly to last. Was this tomb left unfinished by rebellion alone, or by something deeper, something that warned the builders to stop? Perhaps, beneath the dust of centuries, the unfinished tomb of the second emperor still waits to reveal its purpose. Or perhaps it will remain, as it has for over 2 millennia, a monument not to eternity, but to the fragility of human power and the silence that follows its fall. From the silent earth of ancient tombs and unfinished palaces, we now move to something far smaller, yet infinitely more mysterious. Thin fragments of bone and shell, etched with delicate lines and symbols, their surfaces darkened by age and fire. They are called oracle bones, and they hold the oldest known traces of Chinese writing, cryptic messages carved more than 3,000 years ago. Discovered at the dawn of the 20th century near Anyang in China's Henan province, these relics were first mistaken for something far less extraordinary. Locals sold them as dragon bones, ground into powder for traditional medicine. But when scholars examined them more closely, they saw something astonishing. Inscriptions, thousands of them, carefully incised into pieces of ox scapula and turtle plastron. It was as if the past had been trying to speak all along, and only now were we learning to listen. Dating back to the late Shang Dynasty, around the 13th century BC, these bones recorded the earliest form of Chinese script. Kings, seeking guidance from their ancestors and the gods, would pose questions. Will the harvest be good? Will we win the battle? Should we build a temple? The questions were carved into the bone, and then heat was applied until cracks formed. The diviners would interpret the patterns, believing the fissures were messages from the spirit world. Even now, more than 150,000 fragments have been recovered, bearing over 4,500 distinct characters. Some are easily recognizable, ancestors of modern Chinese words. Others, however, remain utterly indecipherable. Their meanings are lost, their purpose unknown. What was being recorded here, and by whom? Scholars largely agree that the oracle bones were a form of divination, a ritual bridge between the mortal and the divine. Yet there is something uncanny about them. The inscriptions are not random. They show organization, grammar, even repetition. They seem to belong to a civilization already literate and sophisticated, not one merely experimenting with symbols. This raises an unsettling question. Was the Shang Dynasty truly the beginning of Chinese writing, or simply the first evidence that has survived? Some historians believe earlier systems may have existed, perhaps written on bamboo, wood, or silk that long ago decayed. But a few fringe theories go further. They suggest the oracle bone script may not have been a beginning at all, but an echo, an inherited language from a forgotten culture, one that predates recorded Chinese civilization. Could these symbols be remnants of an even older world, now buried beneath myth? Adding to the enigma, certain oracle bone characters bear an uncanny resemblance to pictographs found far beyond China's borders. Patterns of suns, serpents, and stylized human forms appear in artifacts from ancient Mesopotamia and even in carvings from early civilizations in the Indus Valley. Coincidence? Or could there once have been a common symbolic system, shared, then fragmented as humanity spread across continents? Mainstream scholars dismiss such theories as speculative. They argue that human minds, observing the same world, would naturally invent similar symbols to represent it: a circle for the sun, waves for water, lines for rain. And yet, the similarities persist, so precise, so deliberate, that they continue to stir debate among linguists and archaeologists alike. The mystery deepens when one considers what the bones reveal about the Shang king's worldview. Many inscriptions describe offerings, sacrifices, and communications with ancestors, suggesting a civilization obsessed with the unseen. Were these writings merely tools of superstition, or did they record something more, a structured system of knowledge that extended beyond religion, perhaps even an early science of observation and prediction? Some researchers have proposed that the cracking patterns themselves might encode more than chance or divination, that the ritual may have concealed an early form of binary or symbolic logic. The idea remains controversial, but intriguing. Could the ancients have stumbled upon a primitive system of recording cause and effect, a pattern recognition process hidden beneath spiritual ritual? And then there are the missing pieces. For every bone recovered, many more remain lost, destroyed, looted, or still buried beneath the plains of Henan. Entire sets of inscriptions appear to have vanished, leaving partial records that speak of events and omens whose outcomes we will never know. Some even whisper of royal decrees and celestial observations, perhaps the earliest Chinese astronomical records, etched into bone, then burned in ritual fire. As night falls over the archaeological fields near Anyang, the air turns cool, and the silence feels almost sacred. It is easy to imagine the flicker of ancient torches, the hiss of heated metal, and the crack of bone beneath flame. In those moments, thousands of years ago, someone believed they were speaking to heaven, and perhaps, in some strange way, they were. What did those flames reveal? Were the cracks truly messages from the ancestors, or from something deeper? Something that understood the language of signs before humanity did? Even now, the oracle bones keep their secrets. Some inscriptions remain unreadable, their meanings locked behind millennia of silence. And as archaeologists continue to unearth new fragments, one can't help but wonder how many questions were asked that never received an answer, and what truths might still be waiting, inscribed in bone, beneath the ancient soil of China. From the ancient bones and cryptic scripts of early China, we now journey westward, into a vast, silent wilderness where the wind carries only sand and memory. The Taklamakan Desert, a place the locals once called the Sea of Death. And somewhere beneath its golden dunes lies the ghost of a forgotten civilization, the vanished city of Loulan. At first glance, there is little to see. The horizon stretches endlessly, shimmering under the desert sun. Yet if you look closely, half buried under centuries of dust, you can still find traces, fragments of wood, scraps of silk, faded murals, and skeletal remains bleached by time. This was once a thriving oasis, an essential stop along the ancient Silk Road, linking China to Central Asia and beyond. But now, it is nothing more than a mirage of history. Lulan's story begins more than 2,000 years ago. Ancient Chinese texts describe it as a flourishing kingdom, rich in trade, culture, and mystery. Caravans loaded with silk, jade, and spices once crossed its gates, and travelers from Persia, India, and even Rome may have passed through its markets. It was a place where languages mixed, religions intertwined, and distant worlds met. And then, suddenly, it was gone. By the 4th century A.D., Loulan had vanished. Its people disappeared, its walls crumbled, and its once lush waterways turned to dust. What could cause an entire city, one so vital to the Silk Road, to simply cease to exist? Mainstream historians point to a familiar culprit: nature. Over time, the Tarim River shifted course, depriving Loulan of the water that had sustained it. As the oasis dried up, the people were forced to abandon their homes, leaving behind only silence. A story of drought, desolation, and decay, a fate shared by many desert civilizations. Yet, for some, the disappearance of Loulan feels incomplete, too abrupt, too final. When Swedish explorer Sven Hedin rediscovered the ruins in 1900, he found something deeply unsettling. Bodies, astonishingly preserved by the dry air. The most famous of them, a woman with long golden hair and delicate features, seemed almost asleep. She would later be known as the Loulan Beauty. Her facial structure, clothing, and even DNA suggested something unexpected, a connection to Indo-European peoples, not the East Asian populations that later dominated the region. Who was she? A foreign queen? A traveler caught by the sands? Or evidence that Lulan's people were part of a long-forgotten civilization that predated China's recorded history? Artifacts found at the site deepened the mystery. Wooden tablets bearing official seals, pieces of Roman-style glassware, and manuscripts written in multiple languages hinted at an extraordinary level of cultural fusion. It was as if Loulan had existed not at the edge of the world, but at its crossroads, absorbing influences from both East and West. And then there are the strange details, the things harder to explain. Accounts of sudden, catastrophic sandstorms said to have swallowed entire caravans whole. Ancient reports of a red lake near Loulan that turned crimson before the city's fall. Some speculate it was caused by minerals in the water. Others whisper of omens, curses, or ritual sacrifice. More speculative theories suggest that Lulan's disappearance may not have been purely environmental. Some propose that shifting magnetic fields, or even seismic activity, altered the desert's climate abruptly, an echo of geological instability still poorly understood today. Others venture further into the unknown, claiming that Loulan's people may have fled deeper into the desert, forming hidden communities that left no trace. Satellite imaging has revealed odd geometric patterns beneath the sands near the site, lines and shapes too regular to be natural. Are these remnants of ancient irrigation systems, or the faint outlines of a city yet to be uncovered? Archaeologists remain cautious, yet every expedition uncovers something new: a fragment of fabric, a wooden comb, a human hand curled in eternal sleep. Standing amid Loulan's ruins today, you can feel the weight of its silence. The wind moves through empty foundations, carrying the scent of salt and dust. Once, this place was alive, filled with laughter, bargaining voices, the hum of camels and carts. Now, it feels like time itself has paused, waiting for someone to remember. Was Loulan's end simply the result of a river drying up? Or was it the closing of a chapter far older than we know? Perhaps the sands of the Taklamakan still conceal the truth. Entire streets, temples, and tombs buried beneath the dunes, untouched for 2,000 years. And as the desert continues to shift with each passing storm, one can't help but wonder, will Loulan ever return to the light? Or is it destined to remain forever a city of ghosts, whispering its story only to the wind? As the winds of the Taklamakan whisper over the ruins of Loulan, our journey now turns east, toward the jagged mountains of Bayan Karaula, on the remote border between China and Tibet. Here, at altitudes where the air thins and silence reigns, an extraordinary discovery was said to have been made, one that challenges everything we think we know about ancient history. Hidden deep within these isolated caves, surrounded by snow and mist, explorers reportedly found a collection of stone discs, round, perfectly shaped, and carved with spiraling grooves from their center to the edges. Each one measured about a foot across, and each groove appeared to be engraved with tiny hieroglyph-like markings. These mysterious relics would later become known as the Dropa stones. According to reports, the discovery took place in 1938, when Chinese archaeologist Qipu Te led an expedition into these mountains. His team stumbled upon a series of cave tombs containing hundreds of small skeletons, strangely proportioned, with elongated heads and delicate frames. Among them, scattered across the floor, were the discs. At first, they seemed like nothing more than primitive burial ornaments or ritual objects. But closer inspection revealed something far more curious. The grooves weren't random. They appeared to contain microscopic symbols, etched with extraordinary precision, as if telling a story. When examined under magnification, the markings seemed to form patterns, like a record waiting to be played. Who made these stones? And what message, if any, did they contain? For years, the discovery languished in obscurity. Then, in the 1960s, Russian researchers claimed to have analyzed several of the discs and found traces of cobalt and other metallic elements, suggesting they once conducted or stored electricity. Even more strangely, when placed on a turntable-like device, some reportedly emitted a faint, rhythmic vibration, as though they were designed to resonate. If true, this would mean the Dropa stones were not merely works of art, but devices of some kind, created with technologies we still struggle to explain. Mainstream historians, however, remain skeptical. No authenticated photographs or verified museum records of these discs exist today, and the reports that do survive are shrouded in confusion. Some claim that the stones were taken to Beijing, then lost. Others suggest they were hidden away by the government, dismissed as pseudoscience, and a few even argue that the entire story was fabricated, born from misinterpretations and Cold War-era myths. Yet despite the lack of concrete evidence, the Dropa stones refuse to fade into legend. There are testimonies, fragmentary, inconsistent, but persistent, of researchers who claim to have seen them firsthand. They describe discs made of granite so hard it could only have been shaped with advanced tools, each etched with grooves so fine they could barely be seen by the naked eye. Some scientists have suggested a simpler explanation. The discs could have been ancient phonolite stones, used in local rituals for their natural resonant properties. Others see in them an early form of symbolic communication, perhaps an extinct script from a forgotten culture of the Tibetan plateau. But then, what of the cave skeletons? Why were their proportions so unusual? Fringe theories have gone much further. They propose that the Dropa were not human at all, but visitors from the stars. According to these accounts, the symbols on the stones tell the story of beings whose spacecraft crashed in the mountains thousands of years ago. Stranded on Earth, unable to repair their vessel, they sought refuge among the local tribes. Generations later, both they and their technology vanished, leaving behind only these cryptic relics. It's a story both haunting and poetic, but without verifiable evidence, it remains forever on the edge of belief and imagination. Today, no one can say with certainty where the Dropa stones are, or whether they ever truly existed. The mountains where they were reportedly found remain forbidding, nearly inaccessible, wrapped in perpetual fog. Expeditions have tried to locate the caves again, but none have succeeded. Some say the shifting terrain has swallowed them completely. Still, the idea lingers that somewhere in those remote peaks beneath layers of stone and ice lie discs that could rewrite our understanding of human history. Were they the relics of a lost civilization, far more advanced than we've imagined? A misunderstood artifact from an early culture of sound and symbol? Or something not of this earth? As snow drifts across the ridges of Bayan Karaula, the mountains remain silent. And perhaps within that silence, the truth of the Dropa stones still waits, buried, forgotten, and listening for the moment when humanity is finally ready to hear their story. From the frozen silence of the Bayan Karaula Mountains and the enigma of the Dropa stones, our journey now descends into the deep currents of China's earliest legends, where myth, power, and sacred metal intertwine. In the shadow of ancient dynasties, there once existed 9 magnificent bronze vessels known as the 9 tripod cauldrons. Their story is as old as Chinese civilization itself, and yet their final resting place remains one of the greatest mysteries of antiquity. According to ancient records, the cauldrons were cast by Yu the Great, the legendary founder of the Xia Dynasty over 4,000 years ago. Each cauldron represented one of the 9 provinces of his realm, forged from bronze collected as tribute from every region. They were not mere artifacts of ceremony or state. They were symbols of divine authority. To possess the cauldrons was to possess the mandate of heaven itself, the right to rule all under the sky. Descriptions from classical texts paint them as monumental objects, shimmering with patterns of mountains, rivers, beasts, and celestial signs. Their surfaces were said to contain the essence of the world itself, a map of creation in metal. And for over 1,000 years, these cauldrons were revered as sacred heirlooms, passed from dynasty to dynasty, each ruler safeguarding them as proof of their legitimacy. But then, like so many relics of power, they vanished. The last recorded mention places them in the hands of the Qin, around the 3rd century BC, when Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China, reportedly ordered their transfer to his new capital. During the process, one of the cauldrons is said to have fallen into the Sai River and could not be recovered. After that, silence. No archaeologist has ever found them. No confirmed fragment has been recovered. The 9 tripod cauldrons, once the very symbols of heaven's will, simply disappeared from history. How could 9 colossal bronze vessels, each weighing thousands of pounds, vanish without a trace? Some historians suggest they were melted down during political upheaval, recast into weapons or coins as empires rose and fell. Others argue they may still lie buried beneath the silt of the Sai River, swallowed by centuries of floods and shifting earth. Excavations have been attempted, but none have succeeded in locating even a single piece. Yet ancient Chinese texts ascribe to the cauldrons more than mere political power. They speak of them as repositories of knowledge, objects imbued with spiritual and even supernatural significance. One legend claims the cauldrons emitted light and sound during moments of dynastic transition, as if responding to the will of heaven itself. Another describes them as having strange, resonant tones when struck, tones said to calm storms or foretell disaster. Could it be that these cauldrons were more than symbolic? Some speculative thinkers have proposed that they served as early instruments, devices capable of harnessing vibration or resonance, perhaps linked to the bronze's acoustic properties. Others go even further, suggesting the cauldrons might have been technological artifacts of a forgotten age, tools of communication or energy, misunderstood by the people who later revered them as sacred. Mainstream scholarship, of course, treats such ideas as mythic embellishments, reflections of the human need to attribute divine meaning to lost wonders. Yet the persistent power of the story suggests there may be more here than legend alone. Throughout Chinese history, emperors searched for them. Scholars wrote poems about them. Even generals went to war under the belief that finding the cauldrons would restore heaven's favor. Their disappearance was seen not merely as a historical loss, but as a cosmic sign that the link between heaven and earth had been severed. And still, the question lingers. Where are they now? Could they lie entombed beneath layers of sediment near the old riverbanks of Henan or Shanxi, hidden deep within the ruins of the first emperor's palace complex, forgotten in chambers never excavated? Or were they deliberately concealed, buried by rulers who feared their power falling into the wrong hands? The Chinese say, "Where the 9 cauldrons are, there lies the authority of heaven." Today, that authority belongs to no one. The bronze has vanished, but the legend endures, a haunting echo of a civilization's earliest attempt to bind the divine to the material, the eternal to the mortal. Perhaps somewhere beneath the shifting rivers of time, the 9 tripod cauldrons still wait, not merely as relics of power, but as silent witnesses to the mysteries of humanity's first empires, guarding in their unbroken silence a secret the world has yet to rediscover. Beneath the silent earth of Xi'an, where rows upon rows of clay soldiers stand frozen in eternal vigilance, lies a secret that has remained untouched for over 2,000 years. The Terracotta Army, discovered by farmers in 1974, is one of humanity's most astonishing archaeological finds. A sprawling subterranean complex of warriors, chariots, and horses guarding the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Yet even as thousands of these statues have been unearthed and painstakingly restored, the greatest mystery still lies beneath them, in the sealed chamber said to contain the emperor himself. As the camera glides over the vast excavation pits, the soldiers' lifelike faces come into view, each distinct, each carved with haunting precision. Some wear expressions of stern vigilance, others a quiet solemnity, as if frozen mid-thought. They are more than mere sculptures. They are watchers. But watchers of what? What force, what secret have they stood guard over for more than 2 millennia? Historical records tell us that this massive mausoleum was constructed over nearly 4 decades, employing more than 700,000 laborers. Ancient texts describe it as a replica of the empire itself, a miniature cosmos built beneath the soil. According to these sources, the tomb contained rivers of flowing mercury, palaces of bronze, and ceilings inlaid with pearls that mirrored the stars of the night sky. At the heart of this artificial universe, the emperor's coffin was said to rest. protected not only by the Terracotta army, but by hidden traps designed to end the lives of any who dared enter uninvited. Despite modern technology and decades of careful excavation, the central chamber remains unopened. Why? The reasons are manifold. Chinese archaeologists, guided by both respect and caution, have chosen to leave it undisturbed. The preservation risks are immense. Disturbing the sealed environment could cause irreversible damage to both the tomb and its contents. Instruments detecting high concentrations of mercury in the soil lend credibility to the ancient descriptions of rivers of silver. Yet beyond scientific data lies a more subtle, almost unspoken fear that the emperor's resting place might conceal far more than just relics and dust. Some scholars speculate that the tomb could reveal ancient technologies far beyond what is currently understood. Others imagine the presence of intricate mechanisms, perhaps traps or protective systems powered by substances unknown to modern science. Were these merely products of myth and exaggeration, or did Qin Shi Huang's engineers truly create a self-contained world, a place meant to endure for eternity? The enigma deepens when considering the emperor himself. Qin Shi Huang was obsessed with immortality, dispatching expeditions in search of the elusive elixir of life. He sent emissaries to distant islands and mountains, offering vast sums of gold and jade to alchemists and mystics, all in pursuit of eternal existence. Could his tomb hold evidence of these forbidden experiments? Some speculative accounts suggest that the chamber beneath the Terracotta army was more than a burial site. It was a laboratory of eternity. Ancient stories hint that the emperor's body was preserved using methods unknown to modern science, perhaps suspended in a state between life and death. Mercury, which is both toxic and preservative, was believed by some early alchemists to possess life-extending powers. Could this explain its abundance in the tomb's soil? Whispered, debated, and never fully dismissed, more fringe theories linger on the edges of scholarship. Some suggest that the knowledge used to construct Qin Shi Huang's underground city did not originate solely from earthly wisdom. They point to the precision of the layout, the advanced metallurgy, and the almost uncanny realism of the warriors as signs of guidance from celestial teachers. While mainstream historians dismiss such notions as fanciful, the absence of definitive evidence leaves a small door ajar for speculation. Standing above the excavation site today, one cannot help but feel the weight of the unseen. Beneath those clay faces lies something that has not met human eyes for over 20 centuries. What secrets slumber there, waiting to be revealed? Or perhaps never meant to be disturbed? Each soldier seems to hold its breath, frozen in an eternal watch, as if aware of the profound forces contained below. China's government has declared that the central tomb will remain sealed until technology can guarantee complete preservation. Yet with each passing year, curiosity grows more insistent. Some say that opening it could redefine our understanding of ancient China. Others warn that certain doors, once unsealed, can never be closed again. The delicate balance between discovery and preservation hangs like a shadow over the site. And so the question endures: what truly lies beneath the Terracotta army? Is it merely the tomb of an emperor, or a vault of knowledge, a repository of secrets hidden from time itself? Until the day the chamber is opened, if it ever is, the silence of Xi'an will continue to guard its mystery. Beneath the soil, hidden from view, an ancient whisper sleeps, a reminder that some enigmas were meant to remain undisturbed, their stories echoing silently through the centuries. Hidden deep within the mist-covered valleys of Sichuan, where the emerald mountains rise like ancient sentinels guarding forgotten secrets, there once flourished a kingdom that seemed to vanish from the face of history. Its name was Shu, a civilization that thrived long before the first emperors of China unified the land. And yet, for centuries, it existed only as a whisper in legend. No one could prove it was real. No one could say for certain who its people were or how their culture came to be. That changed in 1986, when construction workers near the small town of Guanghan unearthed something extraordinary. Two massive pits filled with artifacts that defied everything scholars thought they knew about early Chinese civilization. The site came to be known as Sanxingdui. As the sun dipped behind the Sichuan plains, archaeologists uncovered bronze masks with enormous eyes and exaggerated features, alien in appearance, yet crafted with incredible sophistication. There were life-sized human statues, gold scepters, ivory carvings, and intricate jade ornaments. The artistry was unlike anything found in the rest of China at the time. It was as if the Kingdom of Shu had developed in complete isolation, its aesthetics, beliefs, and rituals belonging to a world entirely its own. For centuries, ancient texts had mentioned Shu only in passing, describing it as a mysterious realm that existed beyond the mountains, ruled by semi-mythical kings said to possess divine powers. Some accounts spoke of Kong, the first king of Shu, whose eyes were said to bulge and gleam like mirrors, an image eerily echoed in the strange wide-eyed bronze masks found at Sanxingdui. Could these legends be more than myth? The deeper excavations went, the stranger the discoveries became. Among the artifacts was a towering bronze tree, nearly 4 meters tall, its branches spiraling upward like something from a dream. At its base, a coiled dragon guarded the trunk. On its limbs perched birds, spirits, and creatures no one could name. Some believe it represented a cosmic axis, the bridge between heaven and earth, the mortal and the divine. But then came the most confounding detail. After flourishing for centuries, the Sanxingdui Civilization, and with it, the entire Kingdom of Shu, suddenly disappeared around 1200 BC. The people, their culture, their written records, gone. The site itself was deliberately buried, as if hidden on purpose. Why? One theory suggests a catastrophic earthquake diverted the Min River, cutting off the water supply and forcing mass migration. Others propose a sudden invasion or internal rebellion. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the deliberate destruction of the artifacts, many of which were burned, broken, and then carefully buried in deep pits. Was this an act of ritual sacrifice, an offering to the gods before the people departed forever? Or could it have been an attempt to conceal sacred knowledge, to erase their own existence from history? In the years since, new excavations at Sanxingdui and nearby Jinsha have revealed even more evidence of Shu's enigmatic culture. Golden masks, ceremonial altars, and mysterious inscriptions that scholars still cannot decipher. The craftsmanship suggests advanced metallurgical skills and a profound understanding of symbolic art, qualities unexpected from a civilization so ancient and so isolated. And then there are the more speculative interpretations, those that wander into the edges of the unknown. Some have drawn comparisons between the enormous, wide-eyed masks and depictions of otherworldly beings in global mythologies. Could the heavenly kings worshipped by Shu's people have been inspired by something beyond human understanding? Or were they simply artistic representations of spiritual vision, an attempt to depict a consciousness reaching toward the divine? The Sanxingdui site continues to challenge the very framework of early Chinese history. Before its discovery, most scholars believed that ancient Chinese civilization developed primarily along the Yellow River. Shu's existence rewrote that narrative, revealing a parallel culture of astonishing complexity, one that may have exchanged ideas, technologies, and beliefs with distant regions across Asia and beyond. Yet so much remains unexplained. No written records from Shu have survived. No royal tombs have been found. Even the people themselves seem to have vanished into the mists of time, leaving behind only their haunting bronze faces, staring eternally towards something we can no longer see. Standing among the relics of Sanxingdui today, one cannot help but feel the presence of something larger, an echo from a forgotten age. The air hums with the tension between what is known and what is unknowable. Who were the people of Shu? Where did they come from? And perhaps most hauntingly, why did they choose to disappear so completely, as if erasing themselves from the story of the world? Until new evidence emerges from the depths of Sichuan's soil, the Phantom Kingdom of Shu remains what it has always been. A whisper from the shadows of antiquity, a civilization that defies time itself, watching us silently through eyes of bronze. As the night settles over Shandong province, the sacred peak of Mount Tai rises into the mist like a colossal silhouette etched against the heavens. Clouds drift lazily across its ridges, illuminated by a pale moonlight that shimmers over the ancient stone steps winding up its slope. For thousands of years, this mountain has been regarded as the dwelling place of spirits, the meeting point between heaven and earth, a site where emperors once climbed to speak to the gods. But as dusk gives way to darkness, strange lights begin to flicker along its summit, soft, glowing orbs that dance in silence across the mountainside. They have been seen for centuries. Described by scholars, poets, and travelers alike, the mysterious lights of Mount Tai are among China's oldest recorded unexplained phenomena. Some accounts describe them as radiant spheres, others as spectral flames that drift through the mist. Ancient texts from as early as the Han Dynasty speak of Shenhuo, divine fire, that appears without warning on the mountain, a celestial sign that heaven and earth are communicating. In Chinese tradition, Mount Tai is no ordinary peak. It is one of the 5 sacred mountains, the most revered of them all, symbolizing life, death, and renewal. Emperors from the Zhou to the Qing dynasties journeyed here to perform the Fengshan sacrifices, grand ceremonies meant to confirm their divine mandate to rule. To witness strange lights in such a sacred place was never taken lightly. To the ancient mind, it was an omen, perhaps a message from the heavens, or a warning from the ancestors. Yet, the mystery persisted into the modern age. Pilgrims and locals still report sightings, clusters of glowing orbs hovering above the stone stairways, moving against the wind, sometimes pulsing with faint blue or green light before vanishing into the fog. Tourists have captured videos and photographs of the phenomenon, though, as always, skeptics point to natural explanations. Could these lights simply be a natural occurrence? Scientists have proposed several possibilities. One theory suggests that the lights are a rare form of atmospheric electricity, similar to ball lightning, produced by the friction of moist air and the mountain's unique mineral composition. Others point to piezoelectric effects, tiny electric discharges generated when quartz-rich rocks are compressed or fractured by tectonic stress beneath the Earth's surface. Mount Tai sits near fault lines. Perhaps the Earth itself is generating these mysterious glows. Another explanation invokes bioluminescent organisms, fungi or insects that emit light and appear ethereal in the dark, particularly in foggy or rainy conditions. It would be easy, under the dim veil of night, to mistake a cluster of glowing insects for ghostly lights floating in midair. But for every scientific theory, there remain details that resist explanation. Witnesses describe the lights moving with purpose, sometimes rising vertically, at other times darting horizontally as if under intelligent control. Some have appeared during perfectly clear weather, when no fog, rain, or humidity could distort vision. And then there is their consistency across time. Centuries of observation by people of all ranks and beliefs, all describing the same phenomenon in eerily similar terms. Is it coincidence or continuity? Legends offer a more mystical perspective. Some locals believe the lights are the spirits of ancient emperors or immortals, visiting Mount Tai to commune with the divine. Others say they are the souls of the departed ascending toward heaven. After all, Mount Tai has long been associated with death and rebirth. In the mythology of the underworld, the mountain's eastern face marks the threshold where mortal life ends and spiritual journey begins. To see the lights, some claim, is to glimpse the passage of souls returning to the sky. More speculative theories have also emerged. Stories of ancient technologies buried beneath the mountain, relics from lost civilizations whose energy still pulses faintly through the rock. Some suggest that Mount Tai's alignment with celestial constellations is no accident, that it may once have served as a kind of astronomical observatory, tuned to energies beyond modern understanding. Whether divine, natural, or something else entirely, the phenomenon continues to provoke fascination. Scientists who have studied Mount Tai's geology remain cautious, acknowledging that while most sightings can be explained by atmospheric effects, a small fraction remain unexplained. No definitive cause has been confirmed. As dawn approaches, the mountain returns to silence. The lights vanish as suddenly as they appeared, leaving behind only mist and memory. Standing among the ancient pines, one can almost feel the weight of the ages pressing in, the same questions that haunted emperors, monks, and travelers for millennia. What are these lights that appear where heaven meets earth? A trick of the air, or something far older, something that has been watching silently since the dawn of Chinese civilization? Perhaps, as with so many of China's deepest mysteries, the truth of Mount Tai's lights lies somewhere between heaven and earth, flickering just beyond our understanding, waiting to be seen again. As we leave behind the haunting glow of Mount Tai's mysterious lights, the journey carries us farther west, into the arid expanses of Central Asia, where the winds of time sweep across forgotten plains and sun-bleached mountains. Here, on the shifting borders of ancient China, the traces of a vanished people still whisper through the sands. The Yuezhi, once a powerful civilization that dominated the steppes north of the Gobi Desert, the Yuezhi were renowned traders, horsemen, and warriors. They thrived along the early Silk Road, connecting China to distant realms across Asia and beyond. Yet, like so many great cultures of antiquity, they seemed to vanish, absorbed, displaced, or perhaps transformed into something new. Who were these enigmatic people, and how did they disappear from the pages of Chinese history? Archaeological clues place their homeland in the regions of modern Gansu and Xinjiang, where the Taklamakan Desert stretches like an ocean of sand. The ancient Chinese chroniclers described the Yuezhi as a proud, fair-skinned people, skilled in metalwork and known for their powerful horses and intricate jewelry. For centuries, they traded jade, silk, and precious stones along the routes that would later become the Silk Road. But sometime around the 2nd century BC, the Yuezhi suffered a devastating defeat at the hands of the Xiongnu, a fierce nomadic confederation to the north. Their homeland was overrun, their tribes scattered. What followed was one of history's great migrations. Driven from China's western borders, the Yuezhi are said to have journeyed westward across the mountains, through the Pamir Ranges and into the lands of Central Asia. And then, the trail begins to blur. Chinese records continue for a time, tracing their movements as far as Bactria, modern-day Afghanistan. There, the Yuezhi are believed to have overthrown the remnants of Alexander the Great's successors and established new kingdoms. Some historians identify them as the ancestors of the Kushan Empire, which would later rule vast territories from the Indus River to northern China. The Kushans left behind magnificent art, Buddhist relics, and inscriptions in multiple languages, a fusion of East and West. If true, then the Yuezhi did not vanish at all. They evolved. But other accounts suggest a more mysterious fate. Some ancient sources claim that only a fragment of the Yuezhi made the long journey west, while others were lost to the deserts, swallowed by the sands of the Taklamakan or the frozen passes of the Tian Shan. Could entire clans have perished along the way, leaving behind only scattered relics and unmarked graves? Even today, the desert occasionally gives up its secrets. Fragments of woven cloth, bronze ornaments, and mummified remains bearing distinctly Indo-European features. Genetic studies have revealed evidence of Western Eurasian lineages among ancient populations in Xinjiang, raising tantalizing questions. Were these remnants of the Yuezhi, or of even older peoples who once roamed these borderlands before recorded history? Then there are the legends, echoes preserved in Chinese folklore. Some stories tell of ghostly horsemen who still ride beneath the desert stars, their armor gleaming faintly in the moonlight. Others speak of a lost city buried beneath the dunes, where treasures of the Yuezhi lie sealed in forgotten tombs, guarded by the spirits of their kings. Mainstream historians point toward cultural absorption as the simplest answer. As centuries passed, the Yuezhi may have merged with the peoples they conquered or encountered, adopting new languages, religions, and identities until their name faded from memory. Yet, even this explanation leaves questions unanswered. How could a culture so influential, so deeply connected to the early Silk Road, dissolve so completely that no living descendants bear their name? And what of the reports, scattered across time, that suggest the Yuezhi's knowledge was unusually advanced for their era? Some claim they possessed unique metallurgical skills, crafting alloys that resisted corrosion far better than others of their age. A few fringe theorists even speculate that their migration westward was not only a flight from war, but a quest for something, an artifact, a sacred text, or a lost technology hidden somewhere along the routes that linked China to ancient Mesopotamia. Of course, such ideas remain unproven, fragments of imagination built upon the gaps in history. Yet it is within those gaps that mystery thrives. Today, the once great homeland of the Yuezhi is quiet. The ruins of ancient settlements lie half-buried under layers of dust and silence. The desert wind still moves through the same mountain passes they once crossed, carrying with it whispers of a forgotten journey, one that began in China's frontier and ended somewhere beyond the horizon. Were the Yuezhi merely another victim of time's erosion, their identity dissolved into history's great mosaic? Or do their descendants still walk among us, their legacy hidden beneath the surface of cultures that have long since changed their names? In the end, the Yuezhi remain what they have always been, phantoms on the edge of history, visible only through fragments, glimpses, and speculation. And as the sun sets over the endless sands of the Taklamakan, one can't help but wonder how many more lost civilizations lie buried beneath China's shifting deserts, waiting to be found. As we leave the shifting sands of the Yuezhi's lost trails, our journey takes us eastward into the heart of Hubei province, to a landscape of rolling hills and ancient river valleys where another enigma awaits, the so-called Pyramids of Xiangyang. Rising abruptly from the verdant plains, these massive pyramid-shaped mounds have intrigued historians, archaeologists, and travelers alike. Their sheer size, geometric precision, and alignment with the cardinal directions have led many to wonder whether they are merely burial mounds, or something far more mysterious. The Pyramids of Xiangyang, often overlooked in favor of China's more famous landmarks, are thought to date back to the early Han Dynasty, though their origins remain uncertain. Archaeological surveys reveal terraces and layers of earth carefully compacted over centuries, a testament to the labor and skill of those who built them. The largest of these structures stretches hundreds of meters along its base and towers dozens of meters into the sky, dominating the surrounding countryside with a commanding presence. Some researchers suggest they were ceremonial platforms or tombs for local rulers, but no inscriptions or definitive records have been found to confirm their purpose, leaving the monuments shrouded in speculation. From a distance, the pyramids appear deceptively simple: steep slopes, broad foundations, and a silhouette that evokes the iconic monuments of ancient Egypt. Yet, closer inspection reveals irregularities, unusual constructions, and a sophistication that challenges conventional explanations. How were such massive mounds built with the limited technology available at the time? How were the stones quarried, transported, and arranged with such precision across uneven terrain? And perhaps most intriguingly, why do some of the pyramids align with celestial markers, as if tracking the sun, the moon, or distant stars? Legends persist among locals that these pyramids were once part of a grander city, a kingdom lost to time and obscured by forest and soil. Some speak of underground chambers, hidden tunnels, and passageways filled with treasures that rival the wealth of emperors. Others whisper of strange phenomena surrounding the mounds: flickering lights at dusk, odd magnetic disturbances, or shadows that seem to move independently of the sun. Such tales, whether based in fact or imagination, lend the site an air of ancient mystery that continues to captivate those who visit. Mainstream archaeologists remain cautious. They point out that many of the mounds are indeed funerary in nature, built over the tombs of Han-era nobility. The alignment with celestial points could be symbolic, reflecting religious or cosmological beliefs rather than advanced astronomical knowledge. Still, several aspects resist easy explanation. Satellite imagery has revealed geometric patterns connecting multiple pyramids across miles of countryside, suggesting a larger plan or network, an intention beyond simple burial practices, hinting at a design that may have carried meaning now lost to time. Speculative theories have taken root over the years, feeding fascination with the Xiangyang pyramids. Some propose that they were part of an ancient energy grid, designed to harness Earth's natural vibrations. Others suggest lost knowledge of engineering or astronomy may have guided their construction, leaving traces of a civilization far more advanced than the historical record admits. Fringe historians even point to the striking visual similarity to Egyptian pyramids, raising the tantalizing, though controversial, question of whether cultural diffusion or independent invention played a role. And then there are the mysteries that cannot be measured. Visitors often report a sense of awe, a quiet unease as they stand before the colossal earthworks. Some describe the air as heavier, the wind as whispering faintly through the terraces. Could these experiences be echoes of ritual practices long forgotten? Or are they the intangible presence of something buried deep beneath the surface, remnants of lives, knowledge, and power that time has yet to reveal? Despite decades of study, much about the Xiangyang pyramids remains unresolved. Their purpose, their builders, and the full extent of the complex elude definitive explanation. Are they simple tombs, ceremonial platforms, or fragments of a larger, lost civilization? And if so, what knowledge might still be hidden within their earthen walls, waiting to be uncovered? As the sun sets over the Xiangyang plains, casting long shadows across the pyramids, one cannot help but feel the pull of the unknown. Each stone, each slope, each silent terrace seems to hold a story untold, a secret that has persisted through centuries of wind, rain, and human passage. The pyramids endure, monumental and mysterious, inviting us to wonder not only about the people who built them, but about the ancient world they left behind. A world that may have been far stranger, far more complex, and far more enigmatic than we are willing to imagine. As the towering pyramids of Xiangyang fade behind us, our journey follows the winding currents of the Yangtze River southward to a city that exists at the crossroads of history, myth, and the supernatural, Fengdu. Perched on the northern banks of the river, shrouded in mist and shadow, Fengdu is known across China as the Ghost City, a place where the living and the dead are said to brush shoulders, and where ancient beliefs about the afterlife seem to linger in the air. Fengdu's origins trace back more than 2,000 years to the Han Dynasty, when it was first established as a settlement along the river. Over centuries, it became a center for Taoist practices and esoteric rituals, earning a reputation as a city intimately connected with the world beyond. Narrow stone streets wind between temples and shrines, each adorned with grotesque statues of demons, judges, and spirits. The air is heavy with the scent of incense, curling in delicate spirals that vanish into the haze. Even today, visitors describe an almost palpable presence, as though the city itself remembers every soul that has passed through. According to legend, Fengdu is a mirror of the underworld. The city's countless shrines and statues are said to depict the trials that souls must endure after death: the Bridge of Helplessness, the Ghost Torture Court, and the Hall of 10 Kings. Ancient texts tell of King Yanluo, the ruler of the underworld, who presides over the judgment of the dead. The living, in these accounts, could sometimes witness portents or omens, flickering lanterns, whispers in empty corridors, or sudden chills that defy explanation. Were these manifestations of belief or something far stranger? Archaeologists and historians note that Fengdu's unique architecture and iconography reflect a synthesis of Chinese religious thought, blending Taoism, Buddhism, and local folklore. The city's temples, some constructed atop older ruins, preserve intricate carvings and statues that illustrate moral lessons, cosmic order, and the consequences of human actions. Yet, despite extensive study, certain aspects remain puzzling. Some carvings depict beings that are not found elsewhere in Chinese mythology: enigmatic forms, hybrid creatures whose meaning has been lost to time. Visitors have long reported strange phenomena that cannot be easily explained. Lanterns appear to sway though there is no wind. Shadows move along the temple walls, independent of the sun. And at night, the streets of Fengdu take on an uncanny quiet, broken only by the distant sound of bells and drums used in rituals for the dead. Some speculate that the city's geography, built atop limestone hills riddled with natural caves and underground passages, amplifies sound and light, producing illusions. But such explanations do not account for all experiences, especially those recorded in historical accounts spanning centuries. Some scholars suggest that Fengdu served as a site for shamanic rites, where intermediaries between the living and the dead could commune with spirits. Others propose that the city's reputation as a gateway to the underworld may have served political or social purposes, a way for rulers and priests to reinforce morality, obedience, and cosmic order. And yet, the enduring consistency of the legends, combined with the uncanny atmosphere, leaves room for the imagination to wander. Fringe theories add another layer to Fengdu's enigma. Some have suggested that the city was deliberately designed to align with celestial or geomantic principles, harnessing energies believed to bridge the mortal world and the afterlife. Others speculate that certain hidden chambers beneath the temples might contain artifacts or texts from civilizations predating the Han Dynasty, lost knowledge that was deliberately concealed. Even today, the city remains an active site of spiritual devotion, attracting pilgrims who leave offerings, perform rituals, and seek guidance from the unseen. The streets, temples, and statues whisper of lives long past, of moral trials, cosmic balance, and the thin veil separating life and death. As night falls over Fengdu, the Yangtze's waters glint faintly in the lantern light, reflecting the shadows of statues that seem almost alive. One cannot help but feel the weight of countless centuries pressing in, a reminder that the boundary between the known and the unknown is thinner here than almost anywhere else in China. Are the strange phenomena of Fengdu merely echoes of belief and imagination? Or does this ghost city, perched between river and hill, guard secrets of the afterlife that we are not yet prepared to understand? The answer, like the mists that cling to its streets, remains just beyond reach, inviting all who visit to wonder and to question what lies hidden in the shadows. As the mists of Fengdu fade into memory, our journey moves northwest into the windswept deserts of Qinghai Province, to a region where the high-altitude plains meet jagged mountain ranges and where a chilling mystery lies buried beneath the sands, the Dulan gold mummies. Here, among the arid soil and desolate valleys, archaeologists and travelers have uncovered human remains that defy conventional understanding, wrapped in layers of gold and preserved with an eerie precision that has sparked fascination and debate for decades. The Dulan region, part of the Greater Tibetan Plateau, has long been home to nomadic cultures, traders, and Buddhist monasteries. Yet beneath this rugged landscape lie tombs dating back over a millennium, containing mummies unlike any found elsewhere in China. The most striking feature: many of these bodies are encased in sheets of gold, their features remarkably well preserved, as if time had hesitated before touching them. Radiocarbon dating places some of the mummies between 800 and 200 BC, a period of immense cultural exchange along the early Silk Road, yet their origins remain uncertain. Descriptions of the Dulan gold mummies evoke a sense of both reverence and unease. Faces are serene, almost lifelike, with features that appear to bridge multiple ethnic groups. Some resemble the local Tibetan and Han populations, while others display distinctly Caucasoid traits. The gold wrappings shimmer in the dim light of excavation tents, reflecting centuries of burial rites designed to honor the dead, but also hinting at a sophistication in metallurgy and ritual practice that seems advanced for the region and period. Mainstream historians suggest that the mummies may have belonged to an elite class, wealthy merchants or nobility who traded along the Silk Road. The use of gold, they argue, was symbolic, intended to honor the deceased and perhaps to safeguard their passage into the afterlife. Others emphasize the preservation techniques: carefully desiccated bodies treated with salts, resins, and mineral-rich earth. Such methods are consistent with known practices in the Tarim Basin and other Central Asian cultures, yet the sheer number and quality of the Dulan finds raise questions. Beyond the archaeological details, the Dulan gold mummies have inspired a host of unexplained phenomena. Local accounts speak of tombs emitting faint, otherworldly glows during certain times of the year. Some researchers report that the mummies' features appear subtly altered after exposure to sunlight, as if some residual energy persists within the gold wrappings. Could these be mere optical illusions, or is there something more mysterious at work? Speculative theories abound. Some suggest that the mummies represent a lost civilization of Western origin, possibly connected to Indo-European tribes who migrated eastward along the Silk Road centuries before widespread historical documentation. Others propose that the gold itself might have been intended to conduct spiritual energy, a medium linking the living and the dead. Fringe interpretations even hint at advanced knowledge of preservation or alchemy, suggesting a sophistication in ritual science that has been lost to time. And yet, for all these hypotheses, a definitive explanation remains elusive. Many tombs remain unexcavated, hidden beneath the plateau's arid soil, leaving tantalizing questions unanswered. How did these people, so distant from the great urban centers of their era, acquire such wealth, technology, and funerary knowledge? What cultural connections might exist between the Dulan gold mummies and other mysterious burials of the Silk Road, such as those of Loulan or the Tarim Basin? Every examination of the Dulan mummies raises more questions than it resolves. They stand as silent witnesses to a chapter of history that has yet to be fully understood, their gold-wrapped forms shimmering like frozen echoes of a world long vanished. Their very existence challenges assumptions about ancient societies in this part of the world, hinting at networks of trade, influence, and ritual practice far broader than previously imagined. As the wind sweeps across the desolate Dulan plains, rustling the dry grasses and shifting the sands over forgotten tombs, one cannot help but feel the weight of the past pressing in. The gold gleams faintly beneath the soil, a reminder that even in the most remote corners of China, secrets endure, waiting for those who dare to uncover them. Who were the people behind the Dulan gold mummies? What beliefs, technologies, or knowledge did they carry, now hidden beneath layers of earth and gold? And perhaps most hauntingly, what else remains undiscovered, buried in silence across these high-altitude plains, waiting to reveal its story to the curious and the brave? As the echoes of the Dulan tombs fade into silence, our path now turns eastward, toward the misty plains of Anhui province, where rivers twist like silver threads through fertile earth. It is here, beneath layers of clay and centuries of quiet, that traces of a forgotten civilization have emerged. A culture both sophisticated and enigmatic, a culture known as Lingjiatan. At first glance, the fields surrounding Lingjiatan appear unremarkable, just another patch of countryside in eastern China. Yet, beneath this tranquil landscape lies an archaeological puzzle that has challenged scholars for decades. Discovered in the 1980s and dated to around 3,300 to 2,300 BC, the Lingjiatan culture predates even the earliest dynasties of China, and yet it displays signs of organization, artistry, and spirituality that seem far ahead of its time. Excavations have revealed something extraordinary. Vast ceremonial complexes, intricately carved jade artifacts, and carefully arranged burial sites. Among them are polished jade axes, discs, and figurines, objects of power, not utility. Many appear aligned to the stars, as if the builders possessed a deep awareness of celestial patterns. The sophistication of their craftsmanship suggests a mastery of tools and materials that rivaled later dynastic works, long before such technology was thought to exist. But who were the people of Lingjiatan? No written records remain to tell their story. They vanished before the dawn of Chinese script, leaving behind only their silent relics and the faint traces of ritualistic life. Their jade carvings, graceful yet haunting, depict strange hybrid beings, half human, half animal, as though straddling the boundary between the mortal and the divine. Could these have been representations of gods, spirits, or perhaps mythic ancestors from an age when the line between myth and history had yet to be drawn? Mainstream archaeology places Lingjiatan within the greater tapestry of Neolithic China, possibly related to the Liangzhu culture to the east. Indeed, some similarities in jade craftsmanship and ceremonial practices link the two. Yet, there are also differences, striking ones, that resist easy categorization. The scale of Lingjiatan's ritual sites, for instance, seems disproportionate for a Neolithic settlement. The layout of its altars and tombs suggests a structured hierarchy, possibly even a centralized power. And the astronomical precision implied by certain alignments has prompted more than a few researchers to wonder, how could a culture of this period possess such advanced knowledge? One of the most enigmatic discoveries is a series of jade bai discs and Kong tubes, objects long believed to symbolize the connection between heaven and earth. Many are massive, carved from single blocks of jade with no evidence of metal tools. Some bear patterns that seem abstract, yet others show designs eerily similar to later Chinese cosmological symbols. Could Lingjiatan have been the cradle of ideas that would shape millennia of Chinese thought? Then there are the burial sites. Certain graves hold a single individual surrounded by elaborate offerings, suggesting the presence of rulers or priest-kings. Others are more modest but contain equally mysterious items, such as miniature weapons or figurines that appear ceremonial rather than functional. What rituals did these people perform here? What gods did they worship, and what beliefs guided their hands as they carved jade into forms both sacred and precise. Beyond scholarly interpretations, whispers of speculation persist. Some see in Lingjiatan the remnants of a lost civilization, perhaps one that influenced the rise of later Chinese dynasties. Others go further still, proposing connections to far-flung cultures, even suggesting that its knowledge of astronomy and geometry hints at external influence. Were these people guided by early travelers or teachers from lands long forgotten? Or did they, through their own ingenuity, touch upon universal truths that all great civilizations eventually discover? For now, such theories remain unprovable. The Lingjiatan site is still only partially excavated. Much of it lies undisturbed beneath the soil, its secrets intact. Each new find adds another layer of complexity, challenging assumptions about the timeline of human development in East Asia. As twilight settles over the fields of Anhui, the winds that sweep across the land seem to carry faint echoes of an ancient world, a world where jade shimmered under the sun and rituals connected earth to the heavens. The people of Lingjiatan may be gone, but their legacy endures in stone and silence. Who built this place of power and mystery? What knowledge guided their hands, their beliefs, their gaze toward the stars? And beneath the unbroken ground of Lingjiatan, what else might still be waiting, silent, untouched, and beyond our present understanding? As the whispers of Lingjiatan fade behind us, our journey turns northeast, into the rolling plains and forested river valleys of Liaoning and Inner Mongolia, where a civilization of extraordinary artistry and mystery once flourished, the Hongshan culture. Stretching from around 4,700 to 2,900 BC, long before the rise of China's dynastic empires, Hongshan stands out not only for its early sophistication, but for the enigmatic artifacts and ritual sites it left behind, objects and structures that continue to puzzle scholars and spark wonder. The terrain of the Hongshan heartland is both serene and haunting. Gentle hills, winding rivers, and expansive wetlands that, in antiquity, would have provided rich sustenance and a natural sanctuary. It is here that archaeologists have uncovered the foundations of settlements, ceremonial centers, and burial complexes, their existence testifying to a society capable of organization, artistry, and spiritual practice far beyond what one might expect for the era. Among the most captivating discoveries are the Hongshan jade artifacts, delicate, intricately carved pieces that seem to defy the technological capabilities of their time. The most famous of these are the pig dragon jades, small, sinuous figures of jade that curve in impossible loops, their eyes often inlaid with crystals or other minerals. Some twist so finely that it is difficult to believe they were shaped without the use of advanced tools, yet they were created more than 6 millennia ago. What drove a Neolithic society to craft such objects with such precision? Were these symbols of spiritual power, representations of mythical creatures, or perhaps talismans of an unknown purpose? Equally intriguing are the ceremonial platforms and temple structures unearthed at Hongshan sites. Stone foundations, circular altars, and pyramidal earthen mounds suggest that the people of Hongshan engaged in highly organized ritual practices. In some locations, large numbers of human and animal figurines, some life-sized, others small and abstract, have been discovered, often buried with offerings of jade and pottery. What ceremonies were conducted here, and what beliefs guided the creation of such precise yet mysterious arrangements? Mainstream archaeology interprets the Hongshan culture as an early agrarian society, whose influence may have extended across northeast China and into Mongolia. Yet despite extensive excavations, many elements remain unexplained. The precision of jade craftsmanship, the scale of ceremonial constructions, and the symbolic complexity of the artifacts suggest a culture deeply engaged with concepts of cosmology, the afterlife, and perhaps even astronomy. How did they acquire such knowledge, and why have so few written records survived, leaving us only with symbols and structures open to interpretation. Some of the most unsettling discoveries come from the burial sites. Tombs reveal bodies carefully positioned, sometimes accompanied by jade amulets placed near the heart or eyes. Certain graves contain unusual patterns, possibly ritualistic, that have no direct parallels elsewhere. Were these individuals leaders, shamans, or figures of extraordinary spiritual significance? And if so, what social or religious hierarchy dictated such practices? Speculative theories further deepen the enigma. Some researchers suggest that the Hongshan were part of a network of early civilizations with shared knowledge of metallurgy, astronomy, and spiritual ritual, a network that may have influenced later dynasties. Others propose that the pig dragon motifs symbolize an advanced understanding of cyclical time, or even a connection to celestial phenomena, hinting at knowledge that has been lost to the ages. Fringe interpretations go even further, suggesting that certain architectural alignments and artifact placements indicate a sophisticated grasp of energy, geomancy, or sacred geometry, though evidence remains elusive. And yet, for all the analysis, the Hongshan culture retains an aura of mystery. The people who created these remarkable objects and structure. As the whispers of Lingjiatan fade behind us, our journey turns northeast, into the rolling plains and forested river valleys of Liaoning and Inner Mongolia, where a civilization of extraordinary artistry and mystery once flourished, the Hongshan culture. Stretching from around 4,700 to 2,900 BC, long before the rise of China's dynastic empires, Hongshan stands out not only for its early sophistication, but for the enigmatic artifacts and ritual sites it left behind, objects and structures that continue to puzzle scholars and spark wonder. The terrain of the Hongshan heartland is both serene and haunting. Gentle hills, winding rivers, and expansive wetlands that, in antiquity, would have provided rich sustenance and a natural sanctuary. It is here that archaeologists have uncovered the foundations of settlements, ceremonial centers, and burial complexes, their existence testifying the Hongshan civilization, with its twisting jade dragons, ceremonial mounds, and mysterious burials, stands as both a testament and a riddle. It reminds us that history is never fully written and that even in the most ancient soil, the past may conceal wonders we are only beginning to glimpse. What truths about human ingenuity, spirituality, and connection to the cosmos remain locked in the earth of Hongshan, waiting for the patient, the curious, and the daring to uncover them? As the echoes of the Hongshan culture fade into the northern plains, our journey carries us southwest, into the mist-laden valleys and rolling hills where legends speak of a kingdom swallowed by time, the Jingjue kingdom. Few records survive of this elusive civilization, yet fragments of its existence, found in scattered ruins, oral traditions, and faint mentions in historical texts, hint at a society both sophisticated and mysterious, one whose sudden disappearance continues to perplex historians and archaeologists alike. The land once claimed by Jingjue is now a patchwork of terraced hills, river bends, and dense forests. The air is heavy with the scent of moss and damp earth, as if the land itself retains the memory of what once thrived here. Excavations have revealed remnants of fortified settlements, their walls constructed from carefully fitted stones, and the foundations of what appear to be grand halls and marketplaces. Yet these structures, though remarkable, provide little insight into the people who built them. Who were the rulers of Jingjue, and what social, political, or spiritual systems governed their lives? Artifacts recovered from these sites deepen the enigma. Pottery, bronze implements, and carved figurines point to a culture with artistic sensibility and practical skill. Some pottery pieces bear symbols and motifs that have yet to be deciphered, suggesting a system of communication or record-keeping that has been lost to time. Bronze daggers and ceremonial objects indicate not only martial capability, but a complex spiritual life, hinting at rituals and beliefs that remain shrouded in mystery. Why were these items buried with such care? And what messages were the people of Jingjue attempting to preserve for posterity? Historical texts provide tantalizing yet cryptic references. Scholars have pieced together accounts from neighboring kingdoms, which describe Jingjue as a thriving center of trade and culture, renowned for its artisans and its strategic location along ancient trade routes. Yet within a few generations, these same texts speak of an abrupt decline, cities abandoned, monuments left incomplete, and populations vanishing without record. Theories abound. Was the kingdom destroyed by invasion, famine, or disease? Or could environmental changes, floods, earthquakes, or shifting river courses have forced the people to abandon their homes? Each explanation seems plausible, yet none fully accounts for the suddenness and completeness of the disappearance. Local legends add layers of intrigue. Stories passed down through generations speak of entire communities being swallowed by the earth, of mountains opening to consume palaces, or of a mist that descended upon the kingdom, obscuring it from sight and memory. Are these merely fanciful tales, or could they contain kernels of truth, symbolic interpretations of a natural disaster or social collapse? Archaeologists remain divided, some viewing the legends as poetic embellishment, others as coded records of historical events lost to conventional documentation. Speculative theories extend even further. Some researchers suggest that Jingjue may have been part of an interconnected network of early civilizations in China, influencing trade, technology, and religious practice far beyond its borders. Others posit that the kingdom possessed esoteric knowledge, perhaps in metallurgy, astronomy, or ritual practice, that was deliberately hidden or lost, contributing to its erasure from the historical record. Fringe hypotheses even suggest that the disappearance was linked to cosmic events, aligning with celestial cycles recorded in later texts. While evidence is scarce, the very possibility of such sophistication in a seemingly isolated kingdom fuels enduring fascination. Despite centuries of study, much of Jingjue remains undiscovered. Fields that once bore the weight of bustling cities now lie quiet, with only scattered stones, faint foundations, and the occasional relic hinting at a vanished society. Each excavation raises new questions. Why did this kingdom flourish so suddenly, only to vanish just as quickly? What drove its people to create and innovate, only to leave so little behind? And perhaps most hauntingly, what lies still buried beneath the soil, waiting for time or fortune to reveal it? As twilight descends upon the valleys once claimed by Jingjue, shadows stretch across the terraced hills and river bends, casting long shapes over remnants of walls and pathways. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying faint echoes of a civilization that time has almost forgotten. Though the kingdom itself has vanished, its mystery endures, silent yet compelling, urging those who follow its traces to wonder not only what happened, but what truths about human ingenuity, culture, and resilience may still lie hidden, waiting to be unearthed. Who were the people of Jingjue? Why did they disappear so completely, leaving only whispers and stones behind? And what other secrets might the land conceal, concealed beneath centuries of soil and shadow, challenging us to seek answers that may never fully come? As the whispers of the Jingjue kingdom fade into the hills and river valleys of its long-lost domain, our journey returns eastward, toward the lush alluvial plains of the Yangtze River Delta, where a civilization of remarkable sophistication once thrived, the Liangzhu culture. Flourishing between approximately 3,300 and 2,300 BC, Liangzhu left behind an enduring legacy of monumental jade artifacts, carefully planned settlements, and a spiritual depth that continues to captivate and confound modern researchers. Yet among its many enigmas, one mystery stands above all others: the undeciphered symbols etched into its most sacred objects. Walking across the archaeological sites today, the landscape seems tranquil, almost serene. Fields stretch into the horizon, occasionally interrupted by low, earthen mounds that mark the presence of long-buried tombs and ritual platforms. Excavations have uncovered intricately constructed cities, complete with defensive walls, waterways, and raised ceremonial centers, evidence of an organized society capable of advanced urban planning. Within these spaces, the objects that most arrest our attention are those crafted from jade: ritual buy discs, Kong tubes, and exquisitely carved figurines, many of which bear symbols whose meanings remain elusive, as if they were messages deliberately encoded to survive across millennia. The symbols themselves are subtle yet unmistakable: swirling lines, geometric patterns, and abstract motifs etched into jade surfaces with a precision that suggests intention, reverence, and perhaps even secrecy. Some resemble spirals or concentric circles. Others are linear, almost script-like, as if conveying instructions, prayers, or sacred knowledge. Archaeologists have proposed that these may have been religious or ceremonial in nature, connected to ancestor worship, cosmological observation, or rites of passage. Yet, despite decades of study, no definitive translation or interpretation has emerged. What did these symbols signify to the people of Liangzhu? Were they marking ownership, denoting sacred spaces, recording events, or encoding knowledge now lost to time? Mainstream scholars emphasize the cultural context. Liangzhu was a society intimately connected to water, rice cultivation, and ritual observances. The Bai and Kong jade artifacts, often bearing these symbols, were frequently interred in tombs or positioned in ceremonial sites, suggesting a link between the symbols and spiritual or social hierarchy. Perhaps they represented titles, clans, or positions of power, a visual language meant to communicate status and identity. Yet the absence of accompanying written records leaves these interpretations speculative, providing only tantalizing fragments of understanding and compelling us to imagine a civilization whose complexities remain partially hidden. Beyond conventional explanations, more provocative theories suggest that the Liangzhu symbols may encode knowledge of astronomy, cycles of nature, or even early mathematical concepts. Some researchers point to alignments and patterns in ceremonial centers and tombs that hint at a sophisticated awareness of celestial movements. Could the symbols serve as mnemonic devices or teaching tools, preserving insights into the seasons, agricultural cycles, or spiritual cosmology? The precision and repetition observed in these motifs imply deliberate purpose and meaning, yet the key to unlocking them remains frustratingly elusive. Local legends and folklore add another layer of intrigue. In some accounts, the symbols are thought to represent the voices of ancestors, guiding the living in rituals and daily life. In others, they are described as a divine script, a form of communication between the material and spiritual worlds. While these interpretations cannot be historically verified, they underscore the depth of reverence these markings held for the Liangzhu people and the sense of mystery they continue to inspire today. Even modern technological approaches, from 3D scanning to pattern analysis, have yet to reveal a definitive reading of the symbols. Each new artifact raises questions rather than resolves them. Are we witnessing fragments of a proto-writing system, an early symbolic language, or purely ceremonial ornamentation? Could some symbols carry multiple layers of meaning, context-dependent, understood only by select members of Liangzhu society? And if so, how much knowledge has been irretrievably lost with the disappearance of the culture around 2300 BC? As the sun sets over the alluvial plains, casting long shadows across ancient mounds and partially excavated tombs, the symbols seem almost alive, etched in jade yet echoing across millennia. They challenge assumptions about the development of writing, the sophistication of Neolithic societies, and the human desire to communicate across generations, leaving us to wonder at the intelligence, artistry, and spiritual vision of a people whose voices speak through stone and earth. Who were the people who carved these signs into jade with such care and intention? What truths, beliefs, or knowledge were they attempting to preserve? And beneath the soil of the Yangtze Delta, how many more symbols, more secrets, lie waiting, silent, undeciphered, and calling out to those patient and daring enough to seek them? The mystery of the Liangzhu symbols endures, reminding us that even in the most meticulously excavated sites, the past retains its capacity to surprise, mystify, and haunt the present, a silent testament to a civilization whose depth and ingenuity continue to intrigue us today. As the undeciphered symbols of Liangzhu fade into the soil of the Yangtze Delta, our journey sweeps northward across vast plains and rolling steppes, where history and legend converge upon a city of mythic renown. Shangdu, better known to the west as Xanadu. Nestled amid the gentle hills and rivers of what is now Inner Mongolia, Shangdu was once the gleaming capital of Kublai Khan's summer court, a place celebrated for its beauty, opulence, and strategic significance. Yet today, the city lies vanished, leaving behind only tantalizing ruins, fragments of stone, and whispers carried by the wind across the grasslands. Walking through the landscape where Shangdu once stood, it is easy to feel the echoes of a lost grandeur. The terrain is a mixture of rolling grassy hills and the skeletal outlines of old riverbeds, suggesting a city planned with precision, built to impress both subjects and visiting dignitaries. Historical records tell us that Shangdu was a marvel of urban planning, palaces adorned with marble, halls of bamboo and lacquered wood, and gardens laid out with geometric elegance. Rivers were channeled to supply the city, and walls fortified its perimeters. But much of this magnificence has vanished beneath centuries of erosion, looting, and the inexorable march of time. Archaeologists have uncovered the remnants of foundations, roadways, and defensive walls that hint at Shangdu's former glory. Pottery shards, roof tiles, and the occasional ornamental artifact provide glimpses into the daily life of a court that blended Mongolian traditions with the bureaucratic sophistication of Yuan China. Yet even these discoveries raise questions. Why did the city, a seat of power and culture, not survive the political upheavals and wars that swept the region? Why, unlike Beijing or other UN capitals, did Shangdu fail to leave a continuous line of occupation? The historical record is compelling but incomplete. Accounts by travelers such as Marco Polo describe Shangdu with vivid awe, its jade and marble halls, verdant gardens, and grand audience chambers where Kublai Khan held court. But other sources, particularly local chronicles, hint at a sudden decline, with depopulation and abandonment occurring within a few decades. Was this the result of natural disaster, political shifts, or perhaps economic disruption along the Silk Road? And if so, why was the city left so thoroughly empty, rather than absorbed or rebuilt by subsequent populations? Adding to the mystery are speculative theories, some of which venture beyond the accepted historical narrative. Some scholars have suggested that Shangdu was not merely a city, but a ceremonial or symbolic center, designed as much for ritual and cosmological alignment as for governance. Could the layout of the city, the positioning of its palaces and gardens, reflect knowledge of astronomical patterns or geomantic principles? Others propose that hidden treasures or archives might have been intentionally buried or concealed within the ruins, intended to preserve the knowledge of the empire should the city fall. Legends and folklore intensify the enigma. Tales of Shangdu speak of hidden tunnels, secret chambers beneath the palaces, and gardens that seem to rearrange themselves with the seasons. Travelers recount visions of opulent feasts, of music that floated across the rivers, and of courtiers whose wealth and sophistication rivaled even the grandest courts of the known world. Were these stories embellishments, or could they hint at lost technologies, construction techniques, or social structures that have since disappeared? Modern attempts to locate and preserve Shangdu have yielded only partial success. Ground surveys, aerial mapping, and archaeological digs have traced the outlines of streets and palace foundations, yet the city remains largely ghostly, a memory etched into the land rather than a tangible monument. The sands and grasses have reclaimed much of the site, as though the earth itself has swallowed the city's secrets, leaving only fragments to tease the imagination. As twilight descends over the northern plains, casting long shadows across the remnants of walls and pathways, one cannot help but sense the lingering presence of a civilization that once thrived and then vanished. The story of Shangdu, its rise, splendor, and mysterious disappearance, invites reflection not only on human ambition and artistry, but also on the fragile nature of memory and history. What truly happened to Shangdu? Did it fall to war, decay from neglect, or simply vanish from human knowledge over centuries? And beneath the windswept earth, what treasures, archives, or artifacts remain, waiting to reveal secrets of a capital that once glittered like a jewel on the northern steppe? The vanished city of Shangdu endures as a haunting reminder that even the most magnificent civilizations may slip into shadow, leaving only whispers for those who dare to seek them. As the echoes of Shangdu fade across the northern plains, our journey turns southward, toward the imperial heart of Ming China, where one of history's most unsettling mysteries quietly lingers: the missing body of Emperor Jianwen. Within the hallowed halls of the Ming Dynasty, the succession of power was rarely smooth. Yet few cases are as enigmatic, haunting, and unresolved as the sudden disappearance of the fourth emperor of the dynasty. Today, the very absence of his remains casts a shadow over the official chronicles, leaving historians and investigators to piece together fragments of truth, rumor, and speculation. The story begins in Nanjing, the ancient capital, a city of sprawling palaces, ornate gardens, and imposing stone walls. Within these corridors of power, Emperor Jianwen ascended the throne in 1398, inheriting a dynasty still consolidating its power. Official records portray him as an intelligent but cautious ruler, determined to curtail the influence of his formidable uncles, particularly the ambitious Prince Jade. Political tensions mounted swiftly as whispers of rebellion coursed through the court, each palace hall echoing with the anxiety of nobles aware that power in Ming China was as fragile as it was coveted. The rebellion, later termed the Jingnan Campaign, culminated in 1402 with the forces of Jade capturing the capital. Jianwen's fate, according to official records, was sealed in ambiguity. Some accounts suggest he perished in the palace fires, consumed by flames in a desperate act of self-destruction. Others claim he fled, escaping under disguise into obscurity, leaving the court and his enemies convinced he was dead. Archaeological and textual evidence offers no conclusive verification. No tomb, no memorial, no artifacts can definitively attest to the emperor's final resting place. And so the mystery deepens as Nanjing's stone walls retain their silence, guarding secrets centuries old. Artifacts and chronicles offer tantalizing hints. Court documents detail the purges and confiscations following Jude's ascendancy, indicating that loyalists searched relentlessly for traces of Jianwen. Rumors circulated that he assumed a new identity, possibly in the southern provinces, living out his days hidden among commoners or in the service of distant monasteries. Other records suggest that surviving members of the imperial family may have shielded knowledge of his fate, either out of loyalty or fear, consigning the truth to shadowed whispers and lost manuscripts. Beyond the mainstream explanations, speculation has flourished, Some historians argue that Jianwen's disappearance was a deliberate act of political theater designed to legitimize Zhu Di's claim to the throne while leaving the previous emperor's fate ambiguous enough to quell popular dissent. Fringe theories entertain even stranger possibilities: that Jianwen may have escaped to remote regions of China, possibly taking refuge among mountain monasteries, or that his body was hidden in secret tombs beneath the palace, locations yet to be unearthed by modern archaeology. Could the emperor have left behind a network of loyalists, guardians of a secret that, if revealed, would have rewritten the history of the Ming dynasty? Local legends amplify the enigma. In some villages along the Yangtze, stories persist of a wandering, hooded figure appearing in the dead of night, speaking cryptically of dynastic change and impending justice. Could these oral histories preserve fragments of truth, distorted but not entirely erased by time? Perhaps they hint at the survival of Jianwen, not as a ruler, but as a ghostly presence in the collective memory of the people, his story preserved in allegory and folklore rather than stone and ink. Archaeological inquiry has yet to shed decisive light. Excavations in the Ming imperial mausoleums and surrounding regions have revealed tombs of many emperors, meticulously documented and adorned with inscriptions, yet Jianwen's resting place remains elusive. Each dig, each new fragment discovered, adds both knowledge and mystery. Shards of porcelain, jade ornaments, and charred wooden beams that hint at destruction, but never a body, never a definitive conclusion. As dusk falls over Nanjing, casting long shadows across the ancient palace foundations, one can almost imagine the presence of an absent emperor, a life and legacy concealed beneath the soil, or wandering incognito through distant hills and rivers. The story of Emperor Jianwen invites reflection not only on political intrigue and historical conquest, but also on the fragility of memory, and how a single absence can haunt the chronicles of a civilization. Where did Emperor Jianwen go, and why has no trace of him survived? Was his disappearance the result of flight, murder, or carefully constructed deception? And perhaps most hauntingly, what truths about power, loyalty, and human cunning might still lie hidden beneath centuries of soil and shadow, waiting for someone patient and perceptive enough to uncover them? The mystery of the missing emperor endures, silent yet persistent, challenging us to wonder what the past might still conceal. As the shadow of Emperor Jianwen's disappearance fades into the annals of Ming history, our journey sweeps westward into the grandeur and intrigue of the Tang dynasty, to a court that was both dazzling and deadly, the domain of Empress Wu Zetian, the only woman in Chinese history to rule as emperor in her own right. Among the many mysteries surrounding her reign, one of the most haunting is the mysterious death of her children, a series of tragedies that have puzzled historians for centuries. Beneath the gilded halls and ceremonial grandeur of Chang'an, the capital city, these deaths remain a chilling testament to the perilous intersection of power, ambition, and secrecy. Walking through the ruins of Chang'an today, the vast city layout still evokes the majesty of the Tang dynasty. Wide avenues once lined with statues, palaces adorned with jade and gold, and the echo of ceremonial drums all suggest a court alive with ceremony, strategy, and subtle tension. Within these walls, the children of Wu Zetian, born to secure her dynasty and cement alliances, lived under constant scrutiny. Historical records document that several of her offspring died under circumstances that remain suspicious, raising questions that endure to this day. Mainstream accounts suggest that palace intrigue, rivalries, and the harsh realities of court life contributed to their untimely deaths. Wu Zetian, initially a concubine of Emperor Taizong, and later the consort of Emperor Gaozong, navigated a labyrinth of political challenges. Her children, particularly those positioned as heirs, became pawns in succession struggles and victims of political machinations. Some are recorded to have died of illness or accident, while others fell victim to execution or assassination, though the evidence is often fragmentary and contradictory, leaving historians to piece together a narrative fraught with ambiguity. Yet the circumstances invite speculation beyond simple political calculations. Some historians argue that certain deaths may have been the result of palace conspiracies orchestrated by rival factions intent on undermining Wu Zetian's consolidation of power. Others suggest that the deaths were deliberate acts by the Empress herself, aimed at eliminating potential rivals and securing her own authority. Could a mother, even one of immense intelligence and ambition, have sanctioned such acts, balancing maternal instinct against the ruthless imperatives of imperial rule? The question lingers, unresolved and unsettling, casting long shadows over the human dimension of her reign. Artifacts and inscriptions offer tantalizing, if incomplete, clues. Tombs attributed to Wu Zetian's children have yielded jade ornaments, ceremonial vessels, and inscriptions hinting at mourning rites, yet they provide no clear answers. The juxtaposition of opulence and tragedy is stark. Elaborate burials intended to honor the deceased, but silent on the circumstances of their deaths. Could these elaborate ceremonies conceal the truth, masking political expediency behind ritual propriety? And if so, what might remain hidden within the unexcavated tombs, or in records lost to fire, rebellion, or the erosion of time? Folklore and legend further deepen the enigma. In some accounts, the spirits of the Empress's children are said to haunt the halls of the old palaces, their presence a subtle, lingering reminder of unresolved injustice. Stories speak of restless ghosts, mysterious illnesses afflicting palace staff, and inexplicable omens that accompanied each death. While such tales cannot be historically verified, they reflect the enduring impact of these events on cultural memory, and suggest that the imperial court itself was viewed as a realm of both earthly power and spectral consequence, a place where ambition and mortality intersected in ways that were both political and spiritual. Speculative theories have also emerged, some bordering on the extraordinary. Scholars have proposed that the deaths may have been linked to esoteric religious rituals, astrological omens, or secretive medical practices intended to preserve the health of one child at the expense of another. Could there have been knowledge, lost or forbidden, that dictated these outcomes? Were these deaths the tragic intersection of human ambition and misunderstood natural forces, or the result of calculated, deliberate acts within the imperial household, hidden beneath layers of ceremony and ritual? As the sun sets over the plains of the old Tang capital, the silent ruins whisper of a mother's ambition, a court's treachery, and the fragility of life under the weight of dynastic power. The mystery of Wu Zetian's children endures, a haunting narrative entwined with questions of morality, authority, and human nature. Who truly bore responsibility for these deaths? The Empress, her rivals, or fate itself? And what secrets of the Tang dynasty remain buried, waiting to be uncovered beneath centuries of dust, ritual, and legend? The enigmatic story of Wu Zetian's children reminds us that history often preserves not only triumphs but also shadows, inviting us to wonder what may lie hidden beyond the reach of recorded memory. In the corridors of time, the echoes of their lives persist, a solemn testament to the precarious balance of power and the enduring mysteries of the human heart. As the shadows of Tang China recede, our journey stretches further north, into the windswept steppes and rugged hills that span the borderlands between modern-day China and Mongolia to confront one of history's most enduring enigmas, the hidden tomb of Genghis Khan. Though his empire stretched across vast swaths of Asia, leaving indelible marks on China, Central Asia, and beyond, the location of the great conqueror's final resting place remains shrouded in mystery, veiled by centuries of secrecy, legend, and reverence. Traveling across the rolling grasslands of Inner Mongolia, one is struck by the raw expanse of the terrain. Undulating plains dotted with solitary hills, rivers carving serpentine paths through the landscape, and the occasional ancient forest, silent witnesses to the march of empires. Historical records tell us that upon his death in 1227, Genghis Khan was buried with extraordinary secrecy. Chroniclers recount that his body was returned to the Mongolian heartland, yet the precise location was deliberately concealed. Soldiers and attendants are said to have diverted travelers, slaughtered any witnesses, and even reshaped the landscape to hide the burial site, leaving no trace for posterity. What is known of the tomb is tantalizingly limited. Accounts describe a ceremony intended to honor both the living and the dead. Horses, attendants, and ceremonial objects accompanied the emperor's body into the earth, yet no stone markers or inscriptions were left behind. Unlike the tombs of Chinese emperors, there are no grand mausoleums or palace-like structures. The secrecy was absolute, meant to ensure that the resting place of the world's greatest conqueror would remain undisturbed. Even today, satellite imagery and archaeological surveys have failed to pinpoint a definitive site, leaving the question suspended between history and legend, tantalizing historians and adventurers alike. Chinese sources provide additional layers of intrigue. Genghis Khan's campaigns in northern China, particularly the conquest of the western Xia and Jin territories, link him indelibly to regions within modern Chinese borders. Some researchers speculate that the final resting place of the Khan may lie within these borderlands, hidden amid hills or secluded river valleys. Could the intersection of these Chinese landscapes and Mongolian steppes conceal clues? Perhaps natural formations, subtle topographical anomalies, or unexcavated burial mounds that point to the tomb? The secrecy surrounding the site has given rise to countless theories. Some historians argue that the tomb is deliberately unmarked to honor Mongolian spiritual beliefs, reflecting the nomadic view that a ruler's final resting place should remain unclaimed, protecting his spirit from disturbance. Others suggest political motives. Local leaders may have intentionally obscured the site to prevent rival factions from claiming legitimacy by association with the Khan's remains. Fringe theories, while less verifiable, are equally captivating. Rumors persist of secret underground chambers, hidden caches of treasures, and ceremonial artifacts buried alongside Genghis Khan, tantalizing both researchers and enthusiasts. Archaeological attempts have offered fragments of insight, but no certainty. Burials discovered in the Mongolian steppes and Inner Mongolia yield artifacts of the period, weaponry, ceremonial items, and remnants of nomadic encampments, but none can be definitively linked to Genghis Khan. Oral traditions, too, preserve the story of hidden rivers and secretive burial rituals, suggesting that his resting place may be marked not by stone, but by the natural contours of the land itself, intentionally indistinguishable from its surroundings. Even modern technology has yet to solve the puzzle. LiDAR mapping, ground-penetrating radar, and aerial surveys provide tantalizing glimpses of mounds and anomalies, yet excavation is often restricted by political boundaries, cultural reverence, and the sheer vastness of the terrain. Perhaps this is intentional, a final layer of protection for a figure whose influence shaped continents, a tomb that remains unclaimed, enigmatic, and untouchable. As dusk falls over the steppe, the long shadows of hills and river valleys stretch across the land, concealing secrets that have survived centuries of war, conquest, and migration. The hidden tomb of Genghis Khan endures not only as a physical mystery, but as a symbol of the impermanence of empires and the enduring power of legend. One cannot traverse these plains without sensing the invisible hand of history, a presence that whispers of great power and untold stories buried beneath the soil. Where does Genghis Khan truly rest, and what has been lost to time and secrecy? Were his remains intentionally scattered, hidden, or preserved beneath earth that has resisted human intrusion for centuries? And what might still lie undiscovered beneath the windswept plains and secluded valleys, waiting for the day when history and geography converge to reveal a secret the world has long sought? The mystery endures, whispering across the steppes, a silent reminder that even the greatest of conquerors may leave no trace beyond memory and myth, leaving us to ponder the fragile line between history and legend, between what is known and what is forever concealed. As the windswept steppes and secretive tombs of Genghis Khan fade behind us, our journey now turns southward into the mist-shrouded mountains and deep river valleys of ancient China, where one of the most enigmatic artifacts of ritual culture awaits, the ancient Nuo masks. These masks, carved from wood or fashioned from other natural materials, are far more than decorative objects. They are vessels of mystery, holding centuries of spiritual significance, cultural memory, and perhaps secrets that elude full explanation. In small village temples and on the altars of ancestral halls, the masks sit in quiet stillness, their painted visages frozen in expressions that range from fearsome to whimsical. Some are grotesque, with exaggerated eyes, snarling mouths, and fangs deliberately designed to provoke awe or dread. Others are delicate, adorned with intricate patterns, geometric motifs, and symbols whose meaning has been partially lost to time. The surface of each mask, weathered and worn, suggests countless generations of handling, ritual performance, and reverent attention. When sunlight filters through the cracks in ancient temples, these masks seem almost alive, shadows flickering across their painted surfaces as if revealing hidden layers of history, whispers of ceremonies long past. The origins of Nuo rituals trace back millennia, with early references appearing in texts and inscriptions from the Zhou dynasty, and possibly even earlier. The masks were central to Nu ceremonies, believed to expel malevolent spirits, invoke protection from deities, and maintain harmony between the living and the unseen world. Mainstream scholarship interprets these rituals as complex social mechanisms, a means of reinforcing moral order, commemorating ancestors, and consolidating communal identity. Yet beyond these interpretations lies a deeper, more elusive purpose, one that invites speculation and wonder. What exactly did these masks conceal or reveal? Some anthropologists suggest that the exaggerated features were designed to embody specific spirits or forces, acting as intermediaries between the human and the supernatural. Others propose that the masks may have encoded symbolic knowledge, patterns or shapes that conveyed cosmological concepts, genealogical records, or forgotten ritual instructions. Could it be that within the contours of carved wood and layers of pigment lay a form of ancient communication, a language now largely undeciphered and accessible only to the initiated? The rituals themselves, often performed in the dead of night or during transitional seasons, enhance the aura of mystery. Participants, cloaked in ceremonial robes and wearing these masks, would enact dramatic performances intended to confront malevolent forces. Witness accounts describe eerie, trance-like states in which the boundaries between performer and spirit became indistinct. Could these ceremonies have functioned as more than communal theater? Perhaps they were experiments in human consciousness, ways to probe unseen dimensions of existence, or methods to channel forces that modern understanding cannot fully grasp. Artifacts recovered from excavation sites reveal additional layers of enigma. Certain masks bear inscriptions or markings whose meaning remains undeciphered, while others display unusual construction, materials sourced from distant regions, pigments that resist modern analysis, or forms that defy local artistic conventions. Were these masks merely ceremonial, or did they serve as repositories of ancient knowledge, transporting messages through generations under the guise of ritual performance. Folklore adds yet another dimension to their mystery. Stories speak of masks that move of their own accord, that whisper faintly at night, or that bring fortune or misfortune, depending on the timing of their use. While such tales cannot be historically verified, they hint at the enduring psychological and spiritual impact of Nuo masks and the ways in which human imagination has sought to grapple with their power. As the shadows lengthen across the temples and river valleys where Nuo rituals once echoed, the masks sit in silence, their painted faces staring out of the past, bridging the tangible and intangible, the known and unknown. The ancient Nuo masks are far more than works of art. They are thresholds into a world where spirit, community, and mystery intertwine. What knowledge did the makers of these masks intend to preserve, and what secrets have been lost to time? Were the ceremonies purely protective, or did they serve a more profound purpose in shaping the consciousness and culture of ancient China? And what might still be hidden within the patterns, symbols, and subtle features of these enigmatic relics, waiting for discovery by those willing to look beyond the surface? The mystery endures, inviting us to reflect on the depth of human creativity, the unseen worlds our ancestors sought to engage, and the shadowed realms of belief that these ancient masks continue to evoke. As the echoes of Nuo rituals fade into the valleys and mountains, our journey moves northwest along a rugged expanse where the mountains meet the desert, to a narrow but historically vital corridor carved by time and trade, the Hexi Corridor. Here, etched into the cliffs and boulders of this ancient passageway, lie enigmatic petroglyphs, their silent lines and shapes whispering across millennia, inviting those who pass to wonder at their origin, meaning, and purpose. Stretching across what is now Gansu Province, the Hexi Corridor has long served as a vital conduit between the heartlands of China and the cultures of Central Asia. It is a landscape of dramatic contrasts, towering sandstone cliffs rising above arid plains, winding riverbeds that vanish into the desert sands, and isolated valleys that seem to hold secrets untouched by time. On the vertical faces of these cliffs, carefully pecked and carved images depict humans, animals, celestial symbols, and abstract geometric patterns. Some are simple and almost primitive, others are intricate, conveying movement and narrative, as though frozen moments from a forgotten story. Archaeologists date many of these carvings to the Neolithic and Bronze Age, stretching across several millennia, though exact chronologies are difficult to establish. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the petroglyphs served practical and ceremonial functions, marking hunting grounds, commemorating victories, invoking protection, or symbolizing religious belief. Yet, as we look closer, questions emerge. Why were certain symbols repeated across vast distances? Why do some motifs appear to represent constellations or celestial events, while others seem almost alien in their abstraction? The more we study, the more the Hexi petroglyphs resist easy categorization. Some images depict horses and chariots, suggesting connections to the nomadic cultures that roamed these lands, while others show human figures engaged in mysterious gestures. Are these depictions of daily life, ritual enactments, or symbolic codes meant only for those initiated into esoteric knowledge? Could the carvings encode practical information, such as navigation, seasonal changes, or tribal territories? Or do they hint at spiritual journeys, aligning human life with cosmic cycles in ways that modern observers can barely comprehend? The location of the petroglyphs adds another layer of intrigue. Many are placed high on cliff faces, far from easy access, sometimes only reachable with considerable effort or danger. Why risk such effort? One theory suggests that their elevation was meant to bring the images closer to the heavens, reinforcing their spiritual or celestial significance. Others propose that their remoteness served to protect sacred knowledge, visible only to those who sought it with intent, ensuring that the carvings were both public and secret, accessible and mysterious at once. There is also a temporal mystery embedded in the petroglyphs. Across the Hexi corridor, layers of carvings overlap, creating a palimpsest of human activity spanning thousands of years. Later images often incorporate or obscure earlier ones, hinting at continuity and change in cultural belief, ritual practice, and artistic expression. Were these carvings a form of intergenerational dialogue, a silent conversation across centuries, linking successive generations in a shared but cryptic cultural memory? Speculative theories abound. Some researchers point to astronomical alignments, suggesting that certain clusters of carvings correspond to solstices, lunar cycles, or the positions of specific stars. Others propose that the petroglyphs encode knowledge of distant lands, trade routes, or sacred geography, functioning as a map written in symbols rather than words. Fringe interpretations even suggest connections to lost civilizations or influences from cultures far beyond the immediate region, though these remain unverified, and their appeal lies largely in the tantalizing possibilities they raise. Despite decades of study, the Hexi corridor petroglyphs continue to resist definitive explanation. Each new survey reveals previously unnoticed carvings, hidden niches, and unusual patterns that challenge existing interpretations. Modern technology, LiDAR mapping, photogrammetry, and 3D modeling has begun to capture details invisible to the naked eye. Yet even with these tools, the meaning of the petroglyphs remains elusive, a testament to their creators' ingenuity and the depth of their purpose. As the desert winds sweep through the corridor, dusting the cliffs and valleys where these ancient carvings stand, the petroglyphs seem to watch silently, guarding secrets of human ingenuity, belief, and cosmic connection. They remind us that the Hexi corridor was not merely a trade route, but a canvas, a spiritual and cultural landscape where human hands sought to leave a permanent imprint on the world. What knowledge, what messages were the creators of the Hexi petroglyphs trying to convey? Were these images intended for the living, for the spirits, or perhaps for both? And what might remain hidden, waiting for the careful eye, the curious mind, or the intrepid traveler to uncover? The mystery of the Hexi corridor endures, inviting us to stand in awe before the cliff faces and to ponder what stories and what secrets have been etched into stone for thousands of years. As we leave the wind-sculpted cliffs and ancient carvings of the Hexi corridor behind, our journey takes us eastward, to the tranquil waters and mist-laden hills of Qiandao Lake, known today as Thousand Island Lake. Yet beneath this serene surface lies a secret, submerged beneath layers of fresh water and sediment. The sunken city of Xicheng, an urban marvel swallowed by the rising waters, a ghostly testament to human ambition and the passage of time. Qiandao Lake, nestled in Zhejiang Province, stretches across hundreds of square kilometers, dotted with islands that shimmer like emerald jewels in the morning sun. Its calm waters belie the mysteries lying beneath, for in 1959, the construction of the Xinan River hydroelectric dam flooded the valley, concealing the city of Xicheng beneath nearly 40 meters of water. From above, the lake appears as a patchwork of islands. Yet sonar scans and underwater explorations reveal the submerged streets, temples, gates, and towers, preserved remarkably by the cold, low-oxygen environment of the lakebed. Xicheng, originally built during the Eastern Han Dynasty and later expanded under the Ming and Qing dynasties, was a thriving administrative and commercial center. Historical records suggest bustling markets, ceremonial halls, and densely populated neighborhoods, all reflecting the sophistication of urban planning at the time. Yet, when modern divers descend into its depths, the city seems eerily frozen in time. Streets run straight and orderly, temples rise from the lake floor, and carved stone sculptures stand sentinel, their intricate details intact despite centuries underwater. Why did Xicheng vanish from the collective memory of the region? On the surface, the story seems straightforward. A hydroelectric project required the flooding of the valley. But questions linger. How much more of the city's history was lost before records could be fully preserved? Were there treasures, artifacts, or inscriptions submerged with the city, waiting to reveal insights into the social, political, and spiritual life of its inhabitants? The deliberate flooding, while practical for modern infrastructure, created a watery tomb, preserving the city yet cutting it off from human access for generations. The mysteries deepen when we consider the unique preservation of the city. Unlike many ancient ruins, Xicheng has been remarkably protected from erosion and decay. Could it be that the dense mineral composition of the waters, combined with the low oxygen environment, created an unintentional preservative effect, keeping timber structures, stone carvings, and clay sculptures nearly intact? Or might there have been a conscious architectural foresight by its builders, constructing buildings robust enough to endure centuries of exposure, whether submerged or not? Explorations by divers and submersible technology have begun to unveil the city in astonishing detail. Temples with elaborately carved roof beams, stone bridges spanning canals, and inscriptions etched into stone walls are emerging from obscurity. Yet each dive only raises more questions. What daily lives were led on these streets? How did residents navigate trade, spirituality, and governance? And perhaps most hauntingly, what stories, rituals, or secrets of the past lie hidden in temples and courtyards now sealed beneath water? Speculative theories about the city's hidden treasures and forgotten knowledge abound. Some historians suggest that Xicheng may have been a repository for regional administrative records, cultural artifacts, or even sacred relics, now inaccessible. Others point to the alignment of certain streets and temples, hinting at possible astronomical or geomantic principles guiding urban planning. Could the city have encoded symbolic meanings within its architecture, as seen in other ancient civilizations, aligning human life with cosmological cycles? There is also a haunting aesthetic to the submerged city that stirs the imagination. Through the murky waters, the outlines of gates and rooftops appear as shadows, almost as if the city itself breathes beneath the lake. When sunlight filters down, it illuminates courtyards and steps, revealing centuries-old craftsmanship frozen in place. It is a ghostly tableau, a city caught between existence and memory, tangible yet elusive. Xicheng reminds us that human history is not always linear or fully visible. Some stories lie hidden, submerged beneath time and water, awaiting discovery by those who dare to look beyond the surface. As the waters of Qiandao Lake ripple gently across the lake bed, concealing the streets, towers, and temples of Xicheng, one cannot help but wonder what secrets, knowledge, or forgotten rituals remain locked within this sunken city, and how much of the past, preserved in silence beneath these tranquil waters, has yet to speak to us across the centuries. The mystery of the sunken city endures, inviting reflection on the impermanence of human endeavor, the resilience of architecture, and the unseen worlds that lie just beyond our reach, waiting for curiosity and courage to uncover them. As the waters of Qiandao Lake settle behind us, concealing the sunken streets and temples of Xicheng, our journey of discovery turns to another watery enigma, the Grand Canal of China, a monumental artery of civilization, trade, and culture. Stretching over 1,000 miles from the Yellow River in the north to the Yangtze in the south, the Grand Canal is both an engineering marvel and a silent keeper of history. But beneath its flowing waters lies a mystery that continues to captivate historians and treasure seekers alike: the disappearance of the Great Canal treasures. The Grand Canal, constructed in stages over centuries, reached its peak during the Sui and Tang dynasties, linking distant regions in ways that transformed politics, commerce, and daily life. It ferried grain, silk, and other valuables between the fertile south and the imperial capitals in the north. Along its banks rose bustling towns and cities, markets alive with merchants and travelers, warehouses stacked with wealth, and ceremonial docks that testified to the canal's central role in the empire. Yet, as rich as these narratives are, shadows linger. Many of the treasures that once traveled these waters have vanished. Artifacts, ceremonial objects, and priceless cargo that seemingly disappeared without trace. Historical records hint at the scale of what was lost. During times of upheaval, rebellions, floods, and invasions, the canal was both a lifeline and a vulnerability. Entire shipments of gold, jade, porcelain, and scrolls are documented as having been lost to sinking barges, looting, or secret removals. Some suggest that local officials, fearing the wrath of emperors or opportunistic bandits, may have hidden treasure caches along the canal's labyrinthine routes. Others posit that natural disasters, shifts in water levels, or collapses of canal infrastructure could have swallowed entire fleets, leaving their riches forever entombed beneath silt and sediment. The Grand Canal's waterways themselves seem to guard their secrets. Divers exploring sections near historical port towns have found remnants of ancient barges and warehouses, but most of the cargo remains tantalizingly out of reach. Could there be sunken holds filled with treasures similar to those of Xicheng, preserved by water and mud, waiting for discovery? The deeper one investigates, the more questions arise. Were these treasures ordinary wealth, or did they include ritual items, imperial documents, and sacred artifacts, objects intended to maintain political and spiritual order? Speculative theories add layers of intrigue. Some historians and treasure hunters propose that secret caches were deliberately hidden to protect them from invading armies, particularly during the fall of the Song or the chaos of the late Ming period. Others suggest that parts of the canal's lost wealth might have been smuggled away along clandestine tributaries, leaving no record, a silent testament to human ingenuity and cunning. Could these treasures, scattered and hidden across the canal's expanse, form a puzzle we have yet to solve? The disappearance of the canal's treasures also speaks to a broader mystery, the interplay between human ambition and natural forces. The Grand Canal was not only a channel of commerce, but also a conduit of vulnerability. Floods, earthquakes, and sediment shifts could erase towns, ports, and their contents in an instant, yet leave no trace beyond faint imprints in historical texts. Some stretches of the canal remain unexplored beneath modern infrastructure, and the very waters that brought life to the empire now obscure what secrets they may still hold. Archaeological surveys, underwater excavations, and historical scholarship have begun to piece together fragments of this story. Artifacts occasionally surface, small windows into the canal's storied past. Porcelain shards, coins, and inscriptions hint at the scale of wealth that once flowed along these waterways. Yet the most significant treasures, the gold, jade, ceremonial vessels, and imperial manuscripts, remain elusive. Were they lost to nature, seized by human hands, or hidden with the knowledge that one day they would be found by those who dared to look? As we glide along the modern canal, past towns whose foundations date back centuries, it is easy to imagine the ghosts of barges long vanished, their holds brimming with wealth, now silent beneath layers of earth and water. The Grand Canal is more than a feat of engineering. It is a living chronicle of ambition, commerce, and mystery. Every lock, every bend, every port may conceal fragments of a past we cannot fully grasp, relics of civilizations that once thrived along its banks. What remains undiscovered beneath the placid surface of the Grand Canal? How much of the lost wealth carries not just monetary value, but stories, rituals, and secrets of ancient dynasties? And as we ponder the hidden depths, one cannot help but wonder, are the treasures truly gone? or do they still wait, veiled by water and time, ready to reveal themselves to those who dare to seek them? The enigma of the Great Canal. Treasures endures, a reminder that history is often submerged, not in libraries or museums, but beneath the very waters that carried civilization itself. As we leave behind the winding waters of the Grand Canal, our journey turns northward to the windswept plains and river valleys of northeastern China, where one of the most enigmatic relics of antiquity awaits: the Jade Dragons of Hongshan. Nestled in the fertile crescent of modern Liaoning and Inner Mongolia, the Hongshan culture flourished between 4,700 and 2,900 BC, leaving behind a legacy that continues to baffle archaeologists and historians alike. Among their most striking creations are the jade carvings of dragons, slender, sinuous forms that seem to twist and coil with a life of their own, as if frozen mid-motion in a dance older than recorded history. Excavations in sites such as New Heliang and Hongshan have unearthed these delicate artifacts, often found in burial mounds, ceremonial centers, or atop platforms thought to have served as ritual spaces. The craftsmanship is astonishing. Some dragons are less than a few centimeters long, yet carved with meticulous precision, their curves and spirals suggesting not only artistic skill, but a symbolic sophistication that challenges our understanding of prehistoric societies. What is immediately striking is the uniformity of design across hundreds of miles, hinting at a culture deeply connected through shared beliefs or traditions, but also hinting at a mystery that stretches far beyond conventional explanations. Mainstream archaeological interpretations suggest that these jade dragons may have served as spiritual talismans or symbols of authority. Perhaps they represented the ancestors, revered and protected through generations, or deities that governed natural forces, ensuring fertility, prosperity, and harmony. Some scholars propose that they were instruments in shamanistic rituals, bridging the human and spirit worlds. Their placement in burial contexts may indicate a belief in an afterlife, a realm where the dragons served as guardians or guides for the deceased. Yet questions remain, and the dragons themselves seem to invite speculation. Why jade? The material is exceptionally hard, difficult to carve without advanced tools, yet the Hongshan artisans sculpted these forms with astonishing delicacy. Could this reflect knowledge or techniques lost to time? Was there a symbolic significance in the green hues of the jade itself, representing life, renewal, or cosmic power? And why dragons? Creatures that, while central to later Chinese mythology, appear here in a form far more abstract, less menacing, and oddly ethereal. The answer may lie somewhere between the known and the unknowable. Some researchers have ventured into more speculative territory. A few suggest that the dragons encode astronomical or calendrical information, their spirals reflecting patterns of stars or celestial cycles, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of the heavens long before written records. Others propose that they represent a form of proto-writing, an attempt to communicate sacred knowledge through shape and form. Could these small carvings carry messages, warnings, or guidance intended for those initiated into Hongshan's most secret rituals? The evidence is tantalizing but incomplete, leaving room for wonder and debate. Further intrigue arises from the social and cultural context of these artifacts. The Hongshan culture is remarkable not only for its art, but also for its monumental architecture. Platforms, altars, and what appear to be proto-temples, suggesting a complex society with spiritual hierarchies and communal practices. The jade dragons, small yet potent, seem to serve as a counterbalance to these massive structures, a reminder that power in Hongshan society may have been as much symbolic and spiritual as it was political. Could the dragons have been tools of social cohesion, uniting communities through shared rituals and beliefs? Or were they markers of elite status, possessions that conferred authority and connection to the divine? Every excavation deepens the mystery. Some dragons have been found in alignment with other ritual objects, stone axes, pottery, or clay figurines, yet their placement often defies clear explanation. Did these arrangements have practical meaning, spiritual resonance, or something more enigmatic, now lost to the ages? And then there are the dragons themselves, some hollow, some solid, some intricately detailed, others abstractly minimal, all radiating a sense of movement, as if they possess a vitality beyond their jade forms. As we consider the jade dragons of Hongshan, it is impossible not to sense a quiet awe. They are the product of hands long gone, of minds and spirits that perceived the world in ways we can only begin to imagine. Each curve, each spiral, whispers of belief, of ritual, of a cosmos viewed through eyes attuned to forces unseen. And yet, for all we have uncovered, the dragons retain their secrets. What knowledge did they carry? What purpose did they serve in a society that thrived over 6,000 years ago? Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Hongshan dragons is not their form, but their silence. They offer no answers, only questions, silent sentinels of a civilization whose thoughts, fears, and dreams have been partially lost to time. And as we leave the valleys and mounds of Hongshan behind, one cannot help but wonder how much of their wisdom, their art, and their unseen world remains hidden, waiting for eyes daring enough to seek it and minds patient enough to interpret its meaning. The jade dragons endure, timeless and enigmatic, inviting us into the delicate, shadowed spaces of an ancient culture, a culture that continues to whisper across the millennia through stone and jade, calling us to explore, to question, and to marvel.